Part 24. Fantasy, Me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 231. Yang Kaiu. He was speechless. You old man, you have already grabbed the jade slips. Why don't you just take a look at them yourself? Why ask? You asked, how should I answer? To be on the list, or not to be on the list? After pondering for a while, Yang Qiu slowly said, Old ancestor, he is probably ranked around the 10th. A dozen people. Meng Qingzi's hoarse voice came from the coffin. There was a hint of weakness in the voice. It was obvious that the injury had not been cured yet. He was too old. Although he had been saved before, he fought with Ling Xiao. He had just been saved. Almost half of my life was lost again. Although it is a bit lower, in this world, there are countless capable people and strangers who live in seclusion. I am ranked 10th, so it is reasonable. Meng Qingzi's voice came faintly. In today's world, how many quasi-emperors there are and how many great emperors there are. These are two unsolved mysteries. It is estimated that no one can figure it out except the owner of Tianji. My ranking, although in my heart not satisfied. But the list made by Tianji Tower was correct even after thinking about it. Meng Qingzi quickly accepted the reality. He penetrated the jade slips with his spiritual consciousness, intending to take a look and see who was in front of him so that he could plan for the future. But when his consciousness just penetrated the jade slip, after seeing clearly the contents inside, boom! There was a loud noise. It was like a volcanic eruption, sweeping in all directions. A tsunami-like sound came out, and boundless demonic energy surged out from the coffin. It was like an abyss demon lord appeared from the sky, and the demonic energy was overwhelming, filling every inch of the small space. It was all demonic intent, and every inch was filled with demonic power. The powerful demonic aura submerged all 8 people, making them unable to lift their heads. Except for Yang Qiu, the other 7 people were all confused. They didn't understand why. The ancestor suddenly lost his temper. Could it be that he was dissatisfied with his own ranking? It shouldn't be. The list ranked by the senior Tianji poster has been verified by countless people, so it must be true. The ancestor is angry in his heart. We can only accept the reality. Why vent our anger on our own children? This is what you said, I am ranked 10th. In the coffin. Meng Qingzi's voice forcibly suppressing his anger came. It seemed that he would choose someone to eat in the next second. Yang Qiu, tell me, I am ranked 10th. Well. Yang Qiu's face was about to cry but there were no tears, and he tentatively said no, 11th. Ho 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 ho. Meng Qingzi laughed in anger, and several sounds came from his throat. It was not like laughter, but very hoarse. It made people's hair stand on end, like falling into an ice cellar. He sat up from the coffin, and his eyes fell on Yang Qiu. On the body. If this is not his own leader, he has to slap him and turn him into ashes. There are 10 people in the list, and you tell me that they are ranked 10th. In this way. I and those, with what's the difference between the 501st self-proclaimed person on the list of geniuses? I, Meng Qingzi, am a mighty quasi-emperor, so I don't want to lose face. The ancestor needs to calm down. Yang Qiu has no respect for his elders, and it will not be too late to punish him in the future. The most urgent task is to resolve the issue of Ling Xiao becoming emperor first. A great sage said quickly. Yang Qiu is his direct descendant. He can take care of him now, so naturally he has to take care of him a little. Meng Qingzi glanced at the jade slip, then glared at Yang Qiu fiercely, but in the end he didn't say anything more. What suggestions do you have? Just say it, it doesn't matter. This. Several people present looked at each other in confusion. After a long time. A saint king came out and said softly, Ling Xiao has become an emperor. The only people who can stop him are great emperors. The most urgent task is to have the ancestor become an emperor. Nonsense. As soon as the sage king finished speaking, someone stood next to him and reprimanded him coldly. But now, the key is how to make the ancestor become emperor. The hearts of those present are heavy. My family knows their own affairs. If my ancestor could become an emperor, he would have done it long ago. The reason why he waited until now. The key is that there is no chance and no qualifications to become an emperor. The last step, the ancestor took several steps. Millions of years have not passed. If nothing happens, this life will be like this. Our 9 nether demon sect has been inherited for millions of years. If we put it all together, we might be able to buy a chance to become an emperor from the senior master of Tianji Hall. Another sage suggested. I'm afraid not. The person next to him shook his head slightly. He bought several opportunities from Tianji Tower. There is no doubt that the strength of their 9 nether demon sect has risen to a higher level, and their background has also become a lot stronger. But the news of buying the holy land of Shake Light, in exchange for the imperial soldiers. From the surface, they are naturally making a lot of money. But they are reluctant to take out the imperial soldiers and change the news again. In the secret realm of creation, they also spent a lot of money, but the gains are the same. It was expensive, but Meng Qingzi had already eaten a portion of the quasi-emperor elixir in exchange. In other words, although the Juyu demon sect made a lot of money, the money earned was either real estate or had been consumed. Now, they are thinking about buying a chance to become emperor. They really can't afford it. Even a quasi-emperor weapon and a method to suppress the sect have been handed over. What else does the 9 nether demon sect have now? The remaining one, the quasi-emperor weapon and a quasi-emperor level skill, were left behind by the founder of the section. To trade these things would be to deceive the master and destroy the ancestor. Although the demonic people have a cold temperament, they are still dependent on the section. There is still a sense of it. It is impossible for them to touch the cornerstone of the sect. If Meng Qingzi had not personally come forward before, no one would have dared to hand over his quasi-emperor soldiers and quasi-emperor skills in exchange for the method of breaking the formation in the Holy Land of Shaking Light. On the other hand, I made a lot of money by destroying the Blood Demon clan before. However, this amount of resources is obviously not enough to change the opportunity of becoming an emperor. So what? Can't we wait for the 9 nether demon sect to be destroyed? Someone said in a deep voice. The senior poster is a powerful emperor. How about we ask our seniors to take action and protect the 9 nether demon sect? In other words, let the seniors warn Ling Xiao. A saint king muttered and said, Ling Xiao has suffered losses at the hands of the senior poster. He should understand the strength of the senior. With the senior's intervention, our Juyu demon sect should be safe. As soon as these words came out, many people's eyes lit up. This is a good suggestion. The chance of becoming an emperor in Ling Xiao's hands was all bought from Tianji Tower. It can be said that the senior owner of the building has been a favor to him. When the senior spoke, Ling Xiao didn't dare not listen. Besides, another saint king spoke in agreement. But, I'm afraid the price is not low. The great sage of the 9 nether demon sect, who had not spoken for a long time, had a thin body. His eyes were thoughtful and he said softly, moreover, there is a chance that the senior will not agree to take action. Tianji Tower, from the time it was born to the present, seems to have no control. Life or death for any force. It is precisely because of this that countless people feel relieved. If Tianji Tower is upright and favors the Juyu demon sect, what will others think? If you favor the first party, you will naturally favor the second party. With the identity of the senior building owner and the reputation of Tianji building, it is very likely that the senior will sit on the sidelines. For the sake of the 9 nether demon sect, there seems to be no need to make other people feel grudges. This won't work, That won't work either. Is there nothing we can do? The danger of destruction is imminent. There was a saint king who began to lose his temper. Noisy. Menkingzi scolded him coldly and said in a cold voice, I'm not dead yet. The sage king who spoke just now knew that he had made a mistake. After hearing Menkingzi's words, he shuddered and quickly fell silent. The junior has a suggestion. I don't know whether I should say it or not. At this time, Yang Qiu tentatively spoke. There are a group of big guys here. He is a saint and he really can't get in the conversation. But everyone has been discussing for so long and has no clue. If he doesn't say anything, it might be too late. Oh. Meng. King Zi turned around, glanced at Yang Qiu, and said indifferently, if you have anything to say, just say it directly. Yes. Yang Qiu nodded and said respectfully, the reason why Ling Xiao became emperor is that he used all the resources of Tianmo Palace. If we can also use all the resources of a sect, maybe we can buy a message from Tianji Tower. The Juyu demon sect currently does not have so many resources. Even if it did, the hundreds of thousands of disciples in the entire sect would have to stop eating, drinking, and practicing. Menkingzi scolded coldly. That's what the ancestor said. Yang Qiu nodded and said again, but what if we destroy a sect? Meng. King Zi frowned, then relaxed his brows. As if he thought of something, he continued. Keep talking. Our Juyu demon sect and the Deluo sword sect are feuding. In the past, they were in peace with each other because they were equally powerful. But now our Juyu demon sect has surpassed the Deluo sword section. If we take away the Deluo sword sect's resources and let our ancestor become emperor, wouldn't it be like killing two birds with one stone? Yang Qiu Kankan said. This. The great sage of the Nine Nether Demon sect pondered for a moment and said, it is a good suggestion, but as far as I know, the relationship between the Deluo sword sect and the senior Tianji building master is not bad. Some time ago, there was a little girl from Deluo Jian Zone who lived in Tianji Tower for a while. If we take action against Deluo sword sect, will it cause dissatisfaction from the senior poster? Yang Qiu thought for a moment and said uncertainly. Probably not. He couldn't say for sure on this point. But at present, it seems that the best choice is to attack the Deluo sword section. The opponent has no imperial soldiers, no emperor-level formations, and they are still close. Suddenly attack, they will definitely not be able to stop them. Without the intervention of other sects, it is not impossible to quickly destroy the Great Luo Sword section. Only by swallowing the secrets of the Great Luo Sword sect can they have the confidence to go to Tianji Tower to buy resources for their own family. The ancestor became emperor and blocked Ling Xiao, saving the Nine Nether Demon sect from disaster. This is a good suggestion. Menkingzi squinted his eyes and said indifferently. After hearing Yang Qiu's words, he was moved. He holds the imperial weapon in his hand. Even if a quasi-emperor pops up from Deluo sword sect, he is sure to suppress it. After all, not everyone is Ling Xiao. And he has been a quasi-emperor for millions of years, and his strength is not as weak as the outside world said. It's just that he was unlucky and met Ling Xiao. As for the relationship between Deluo sword sect and the owner of Tianji building, Menkingzi thought about it for a moment, and he had something in his mind. Come on, what kind of person is the senior poster? He is an emperor who has lived for I don't know how many years. He is used to seeing the rise and fall of sects, and he will not take the Great Luo sword sect to heart at all. At most, the Nine Nether Demon sect and the Great Luo sword sect are just secrets. He's just a passerby in the building. Who would stop for a passerby? If two people of the same weight fight, the senior building owner will probably just laugh and watch the changes, and not get involved. Besides, I have done so much, but it is all for the sake of sending benefits to Tianji Tower. Presumably, the senior owner of the building will understand his painstaking efforts. Thinking of this, Menkingzi was determined. He stood up from the coffin and said indifferently, "I will come back as soon as I go." As soon as he finished speaking, he took a step forward, and a black avenue stretched out under his feet, surging toward the sky like a long river. Disappearing with Menkingzi were the imperial soldiers who had shaken the Holy Land. When Menkingzi rushed to the Luo sword sect, where the great Luo sword sect is located, 200,000 miles away, a tiny gap suddenly opened in an empty sky. The cracks were very small and no breath was revealed. Therefore, no one found anything wrong at all. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 232. Zixuan Realm. Moun Imperial Palace. This is the palace of Emperor Moun. The palaces are continuous, covering thousands of miles, and the momentum is like a rainbow. Various fairy lights circulate, and from time to time, terrifying symbols rise into the night, blocking the sky and the sun. When mentioning the words Moun Imperial Palace, it can be said that in the current world, it is very famous, and it controls hundreds of millions of miles of territory, and it has countless people who have surrendered. They are all headed by Moun Imperial Palace. Now, in front of the Moun Imperial Palace, an altar towered into the clouds, exuding an aura of eternal suppression, as if it had existed for hundreds of millions of years. It is engraved with the sun, moon, stars, rivers, birds, beasts, insects, fish, and immortals bowing their heads. The pictures are extremely magnificent and shocking. The altar is majestic and boundless, like a sacred mountain. You can't see the end at a glance. You can only see, in the distant void, a black blazing sun, emitting a powerful aura. The brilliance is not dazzling, but no one dares to look directly at it. In the scorching sun, stood a terrifying figure, suppressing the four extremes of the world, like a heavenly emperor, looking down at the sky and the earth, with only a wisp of black energy and blood spilling out. It crushed countless mountains, rivers, and lands. Open! A cold shout came out. Like the supreme God's pardon, it was so powerful that it was deafening and deafening. It echoed in the ears of countless people, making their blood surge, and they all couldn't help but raise their heads. Boom! The roaring sound came out, and a portal gradually appeared in the sky. It was so deep that I didn't know where it led. It was very mysterious and inexplicable. The great emperor opened the space channel of Tianyuan realm. Someone murmured. Under the altar, a group of terrifying figures stood, each with impressive power. Their eyes opened and closed like lightning flashes. Behind them were endless soldiers. Just like Wang Yang, the edges could not be seen at a glance. Everyone was holding a spear and wearing cold armor, glowing coldly in the sun. Hearing Emperor Moun's words, at this moment, everyone present couldn't help but get excited. The cross-border passage, was it completely solved so quickly? Where is Yuan yet? Just when everyone was thinking, a thick voice came down from above the altar. The subordinates are here. The 2-foot-tall creature, exuding the aura of a great sage, stepped out and bowed in the void. The passage between the two realms has been stabilized. You lead 300,000 elites and are the first to step into the Tianyuan realm. You must find out the reality of the Tianyuan realm and then report it to the emperor. Anyone who blocks the way will be killed. Emperor Moun opened and closed the corners of his mouth and said calmly. The space passage has just been opened. Through one corner, you can vaguely see the scene on the other side, which is a lush mountain forest. There seems to be no human habitation. This makes Emperor Moun breathe a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the space passage was not opened in a dark world. Otherwise, he would have to spend a lot of effort to lead his soldiers to find the specific location of Tianyuan realm. At present, the space passage is stable. The next thing to do is to find out the reality of the Tianyuan world. For example, in their world, There are several forbidden areas and there are several great emperors on the stage. As for him being the first to go there, he has not thought about it. Even if he is invincible at the same level, how many people can it deal with? Judging from the past history, Tianyuan realm is not weaker than Zixuan realm. If he is besieged by several great emperors as soon as he steps through the space passage, no matter how strong he is, he will still have to suffer hatred in Tianyuan realm. No matter how careful you are in a cross-border battle, he doesn't want to repeat the mistakes of the great emperor of the Zixuan realm in the past. It's just that he comes back seriously injured. All the elites under his command are also killed or wounded, which is too uneconomical. Got it? Subordinates obey. UN. Yes said excitedly. He had long wanted to avenge his best friend. But he didn't expect this day to come so quickly. He didn't have the courage to take action against a great emperor, but taking action against other forces in the Tianyuan world was not a big problem. It makes sense for him to go over now and collect some interest first. As soon as he finished speaking, Yuan Ye stepped up into the air. Behind him, countless creatures followed, including giant men several feet tall with arms covered with scales. There were also creatures covered in golden bodies. Qi and blood are strong, like a little sun, blooming with divine brilliance. Such a group of terrifying creatures, gathered together. It is a powerful force anywhere, and now under the leadership of a great sage, not to mention sweeping the Tianyuan world, but dominating one side was no problem. As for getting information, it was even easier. Soon, these people rushed into the space channel, and Emperor Moun blocked the pressure, allowing them to pass unimpeded and quickly cross the boundary. Passed. In the space channel, time and space surged, the universe was torn apart, and the terrifying pressure, even if the great emperor helped them offset most of it, still made their livers burst. This is the will of the two worlds, preventing them from the current situation. World, enter another world. These are just two worlds that are not much different. If the world level gap is too big, the creatures in the powerful world want to enter the weak world. Not to mention them, even the great emperor will feel such pressure, being completely crushed to pieces. On the contrary, when a weak world enters a higher world, there is no such restriction. Because a strong person can destroy a weak world, and a weak person entering a strong world is like a drop of water that merges into the sea. For anyone in terms of the world, there is no threat at all. Buzz. There was a burst of light. Yuan Ye took the lead and stepped into the Tianyuan realm. After him, 300,000 creatures jumped out. In a short time, they filled the vast void. Everyone had a curious look on their face. Look. This is the first time for them to fight cross-border. When they come to a strange world for the first time, every plant and tree makes them feel very novel. Is this the Tianyuan world? Yuan Ye murmured to himself. After feeling it carefully, he found that the concentration of spiritual energy in the air was not very surprising. It was almost the same as the Zixuan realm, or even slightly worse. This made him quite disappointed. I thought that the Tianyuan world was a world full of caves and blessed places, but now it seems that it is nothing more than that. Everyone. Yuan Ye cleared his throat and said in a deep voice, we came across the border under the order of the emperor. We have a heavy task on our shoulders. We must find out the details of this world as soon as possible. To find out the details of a world, there is no better way than to find a force and ask the other party's ancestor. Ordinary cultivators know too little. They are far less knowledgeable than a force. If they can capture a saint level or even saint king level existence, these people are the absolute high-level combat power. They know the news is far beyond what a few casual cultivators can match. Just now, I sensed a lot of sword cultivator auras in the northeast. There must be a sword cultivator sect nearby. Yuan Ye stood in the void and kept talking. Before he finished speaking, suddenly, Something was wrong. The people who came across the border with him all looked behind him. These creatures seemed to have seen something terrifying. Their eyes were wide open, their breathing was rapid, and their faces turned pale. UN. Ye was unhappy in his heart and scolded him coldly, saying as a creature from the purple mystic realm, if Mount Tai collapses in front of you, your face does not change. What kind of expression do you have? Said. He turned around and looked. It was okay not to look, but he was shocked when he saw it. Behind him, at some point, there was an old man. The old man had white hair and white beard, he had a calm demeanor, and he was wearing the man in a black robe, with a wooden hairpin stuck in his hair, stood in the distance with his hands behind his back, looking at them with interest. This. Yes, heart skipped a beat. When did this old man come? Why is there no movement at all? If he hadn't noticed that his subordinate's color was wrong, he wouldn't have been able to notice that the other party was approaching, if the other party had chosen to take action just now. I am afraid. All 300,000 living beings, including myself, will be destroyed in one fell swoop. Quasi-Emperor. Yes squeezed out two words from the gap between his teeth. Although the other party did not show any momentum, but with the other party's ability to approach him silently, he would definitely not be a great sage with this level of strength. He also had to start. He is a quasi-emperor. As for the emperor, it should be impossible. Those people look at themselves and others like ants and are destroyed with a wave of their hands. The emperor should talk directly to Emperor Mon. Instead of looking at himself and others' nonsense here. Creatures from another world. Menkingzi stood in the void, excitement flashing in his eyes. He was just about to go to the Delodo sword sect to take action. In order not to alarm anyone, he restrained all his aura. Now he had just arrived near the Delodo sword sect. Before he could take action, he saw Rang. It was an exciting scene for him. Hundreds of thousands of creatures rushed out from a space crack. How similar was the scene to the Blood Demon realm? The Blood Demon clan, who had just wiped out the Blood Demon realm and crossed over from the Blood Demon realm, turned around. There is another world in his head, and he has come to bring warmth. He will kill them by himself, not to mention collecting enough resources to buy the opportunity to become an emperor. But at least he can make a small fortune. As for alarming the great Lodo sword sect, he has never cared about it. He is alone. Can the quasi-emperor still let the Lodo sword sect escape? However, the emperor behind this space channel must be on guard. Menkingzi's eyes passed over 300,000 creatures and landed on the space rift. To be able to open up space channels, he must at least be an emperor. He still doesn't know if the emperor behind the space rift is the same as the one from the Blood Demon realm. Like the great emperor, they are all entering their twilight years and want to seize resources elsewhere. Quasi-emperor of Tianyuan realm, if you retreat, I can treat what happened today as never happening. If you still stop here, when the great emperor comes, I will inevitably settle accounts with you. By then, let alone you, even the inheritance behind you will be destroyed. Yuanya calmed down, took a step forward, and said in a deep voice. The location of this space passage should be their base camp in the future. Such an important place has not yet been exposed. It was seen by a quasi-emperor today. When they arrived, they wanted to keep him, but they didn't have enough strength, and the emperor hadn't come yet, so they could only use a delaying strategy to let the other side retreat before they knew it was difficult. Threaten me. Menkingzi's robes were billowing, his beard and hair were flying, and he held his hand in the air. Behind him, there was a black cauldron with 99 blue dragons carved on it, rising into the night. The moment the cauldron appeared, tens of thousands of people in the sky appeared. Deo starlight gathered together, and the terrifying emperor's power moved up to the sky, and descended to the Juyo, like a tide, flooding all directions. Do you think I will be threatened by you? Meng Qing stood with one hand on his back and the other holding the cauldron, standing in the void. His eyes opened and closed, murderous intent burst out, almost freezing the void. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 233. Imperial Soldiers. Yuan's pupils shrank, and there was a huge wave in his heart. Is the Tianyuan world so rich? A quasi-emperor, going out, carrying an imperial weapon on his body? The 300,000 creatures behind him, when the imperial soldiers appeared in an instant, many people, without even uttering a scream, were crushed into a blood mist by the emperor's power. Almost instantly, the ground within hundreds of miles was completely dyed crimson with blood. Although the remaining people were lucky enough to survive, the weight of the emperor's power on their shoulders made them miserable. They fell to their knees one after another, their faces as pale as paper. Their ambitions just now were completely ignored in front of the emperor's soldiers. Crushed into pieces mercilessly. While everyone was struggling to support themselves, at the other end of the space passage, Emperor Moun's face was as sinking as water, and there was deathly silence around him. A terrifying power was brewing, and it seemed that a terrifying storm was about to erupt in the next moment. Has this emperor's plan been exposed? Tianyuan's response was so fast. Emperor Moun thought in his mind. How long had it been since he met a new emperor of the Tianyuan realm in front of another space passage? The other party came to the other end of the space passage he opened and waited. Such methods made him fearful. Before the space crack appeared, not to mention others, even he himself was not sure where it would be opened, but people from the Tianyuan world found it. They also sent a quasi-emperor with imperial soldiers. Do you want to block everyone in your life? Tianyuanja, what a courageous person. Emperor Moun walked up to the space crack, and his body was shrouded in a divine ring. He had thick black hair, cold eyes, and was very majestic. He had an aura of dominion over the world, like a supreme demon emperor, which made people involuntarily awe. Was it the new emperor of Tianyuan realm who asked you to come here? When Meng Qingzi heard this, he raised his head and looked into the space crack, his pupils shrank. Great Emperor. It seems that he should be the great emperor at the peak of his strength. He is not at all the same as the dying emperor of the blood demon realm. Then, after smacking it carefully, I came back to the words of this great emperor from another world. Have he and Ling Xiao met before? Meng Qingzi thought in his heart. In today's world, apart from Ling Xiao, he couldn't think of anyone else who could be regarded as the new emperor. Only Ling Xiao was qualified to face off against an emperor from another world. Yes or no, you will know everything after you come here. Meng Qingzi said softly. Before he finished speaking, suddenly, roar. A dragon roar came out, shaking the sky, and 99 blue dragons stretched across tens of thousands of miles, like great walls, made of steel. The scales glowed with a cold luster, filling the void and swooping down. The emperor's soldiers mobilized and released supreme energy, turning into a piece of Wangyang. Like a tsunami, it swept over quickly, as if the Tianhe River burst its banks and wanted to drown everything. Don't want. The only remaining people shouted, with frightened expressions, and they were all horrified. They didn't expect that the quasi-emperor in front of them would take action without even saying hello. Moreover, he would take action in front of his own great emperor. He was not afraid that the great emperor would cross his path. Come from the world, kill him. At that time, the emperor will come in person. An imperial weapon cannot protect him. So brave. Great Emperor Moun was furious, and his whole body was surging with energy. He grabbed out his big hand, and through the cracks in space, a world away, he slapped a palm boldly. On the sky, the wind and thunder stirred. It turned into a boundless big hand, and shot from above rumbling down. Ah! We are a world apart, and I still have the imperial weapon in my hand. Do you think you can kill me? Menkingzi raised his imperial soldiers and blocked them in the void. Boom! Landslides and tsunamis, the sky collapsed and the earth collapsed. This was a tyrannical aura, like a piece of Wanyang exploding, and the waves swept across the entire world. All living beings were like ants, and they were all killed in an instant. There was no resistance. The 300,000 creatures that crossed the border disappeared in an instant. Under Meng Qing's blow, they could not survive, let alone the blow from Emperor Mon. Emperor Mon's palm was indistinguishable. Once the killing is taken, no one can escape. He intends to keep Menkingzi completely. Even if it costs 300,000 lives, he will not hesitate. 300,000 lives, one quasi-emperor, one more the emperor's soldiers were not a loss. It's a pity that he miscalculated. The emperor's soldiers buzzed above Menkingzi's head, and he blocked Emperor Mon's blow. Then, with his quick eyes and quick hands, he fished out the storage rings of many living beings at the moment they fell. Come here. Although the storage ring is hard and generally cannot be destroyed. But it also depends on whose hand the ring is and who is the one who took the shot. Facing the emperor's blow, everything will cease to exist, let alone these. A ring on the palm of a saint or even a saint king. Tabo, take the emperor's soldiers and fight with him across the border. Emperor Mon waved his hand, and a black mace shot out of the air and hung in front of the space passage. Yes. A majestic figure bowed, sat on a black jade elephant, rumbled away, and came to the space passage, holding a big mace in his hand. Without any hesitation, he crossed the border. Quasi-emperor. Menkingzi's expression changed. This man was obviously younger than him, with stronger chi and blood, and he also held an imperial weapon. Once a fight started, he was 100% no match for him. He glanced at the people who were crossing the border, and weighed in his mind after discussing the pros and cons. I turned around and left. This time. Although I made a little less. But I can go to the Tianji Tower and ask the senior poster what is going on in this new world. I figured it out. Given the situation, it's not too late to make a decision. Before leaving, Menkingzi turned his head and glanced at the crack in space. He thought to himself. This emperor from another world should come across the border, right? He took action and killed so many of him. Men, if he doesn't come over, wouldn't it be embarrassing? If he comes over, Ling Xiao will be in trouble. It's obvious. This emperor from another world confronted Ling Xiao first. If he comes over, he will definitely the decisive battle with Ling Xiao, and the 9 Nether Demon sect. Just have a steady hand. If you offend one great emperor, everyone will watch how you die. But if you offend many great emperors, everyone will watch how the 9 Nether Demon sect survives. This it's just people's weird mentality. At worst, if I move all the people from the sect to Dawang City, even if I can't enter the city, I can just hide outside the city for a while. No one will dare to do anything near Dawang City, right? Dare to do this? People who obviously don't want to live anymore. Boom. Not long after Menkingzi left, a terrifying aura rose into the sky. Tabo rode on the ink jade elephant and stepped out of the space passage. He scanned all directions, but found nothing in the end. Now Menkingzi has not known for a long time sneaked away somewhere. Deluoji Unzone. In the headmaster's hall. Ren Qingtu held a jade slip in his hand, which contained the news about the emperor's list. He read it over and over again, and finally sighed helplessly. The people here are all outstanding people. It would be great if one of them could be from their Deluo sword section. Pity. Within the Deludo sword sect, no one is on the list, not even a quasi-emperor. Just when he sighed, suddenly, an extremely powerful aura swept in from the end of the sky. The entire Deludo sword sect was trembling in the face of this aura. It's like an ancient emperor has been resurrected, standing in the sky, looking down at all living beings. This is. Renkingta showed an incredible look, walked a few steps quickly, came to the outside of the hall, looked in the direction of the breath, and when he saw 99 blue dragons crossing the sky, suddenly confused. Kanglong Cauldron. Renkingta squeezed out 3 words with difficulty. Whoosh. 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 Streams of light rushed out from the various divine peaks. Each stream of light represented a holy lord-level figure. They were the elders of Deludo sword sect. At this time, they all gathered in front of the headmaster's hall. Master, is this imperial armament the same imperial armament that shook the Holy Land? As soon as an elder appeared, he asked impatiently. That's right. Renkingta nodded with difficulty. Kanglong Cauldron? Hasn't it already fallen into the hands of the Juyu demon sect? At this time, the Kanglong Cauldron appeared in the world, not far from the Deludo sword section. Could it be that? Many elders trembled, and terrible guesses emerged in their minds. Is the Juyu demon sect going to take action against the Deludo sword sect? Headmaster, contact Ancestor Lu quickly. An elder reminded. I have just contacted you, but my ancestor is still in the Sea of Chaos Stars and cannot receive information from the outside world. Moreover, in the Sea of Chaos Stars, the great teleportation talisman cannot be used. Renkingta looked bitter and looked up into the distance, his heart extremely complicated. At this juncture, facing a quasi-emperor who came with imperial troops, their Deludo sword sect had little resistance. They might be able to hold on for a while, but they would definitely not be able to hold on for long. If Lu Changhe could not arrive in time, I am afraid that the fate of their Deludo sword sect would be very miserable. But you don't have to worry. I have already informed Xiantian sword sect and Ziwei Holy Land. These two sects have always been on good terms with Deludo sword sect and they will not sit idly by. As long as we persist until our ancestors. Renkingta spoke. The words are not finished yet. Boom. There was a loud noise. The sky collapsed and the earth shattered. A more powerful aura than before rose into the night and shattered the clouds in the sky. The sky began to wrinkle and was almost broken. A palm that covered the sky and the sun covered the sky. With a radius of more than 100,000 miles, even in their Deludo sword sect, when they see this palm, they feel a sense of despair in their hearts. If the owner of this palm is targeting the Deludo sword sect, it is estimated that they are gone now. Big Emperor. An elder saint said hoarsely. Meng Qingzi is fighting against a great emperor? Is it possible, Ling Xiao is back? Some people speculated. Unlikely, although Ling Xiao became emperor, he still followed the path of the Yaoguang ancient emperor. It was impossible for him to completely transform the aura of the Yaoguang Emperor Sutra. Renkingta shook his head. As soon as these words came out, countless people felt happy. Meng Qingzi should not be able to run away when a great emperor takes action. No matter whether the owner of this palm is Ling Xiao or not, Meng Qingzi is probably unstoppable. Don't be happy too early. The aura of this great emperor is very strange. It is not like the owner of any emperor scripture in the current world. It even gives me a feeling of extreme danger. Renkingta thought in his mind. The saint's intuition is very sharp. Since this great emperor gives him a sense of danger, it proves that this great emperor probably does not have a good impression of the Deludo sword sect. No one can guarantee that when dealing with Meng Qingzi, will the emperor turn his gun and slap the Deludo sword sect? After hearing Renkingta's words, for a moment, he fell into silence before the headmaster's hall. But this silence did not last long. Just a quarter of an hour later, At the end of the sky, a black jade idol, with a burly figure sitting on it, slowly walked over. The statue's steps were slow, but very heavy. Every step he took made the void he stepped on tremble. It's as if 100,000 ancient stars are falling together. Before they get close, they give people a suffocating feeling of impending disaster. Did you really come? Ren. King Tu narrowed his eyes and said in a deep voice, this divine elephant is not from this world's race. I'm afraid what happened just now is not that simple. Dear elders, activate the mountain protection formation and prepare to face the battle. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 234. When a quasi-emperor from another world fought against the great Logo sword section, this message. Like a hurricane, it swept through every corner of the world. The turmoil over the Imperial Prince list has not subsided yet, and even more exciting news is coming one after another. The alien world is invading again. How long has it been since we entered the Blood Demon realm? Are other worlds targeting this world? This time, it is different from the Blood Demon realm. They have a real emperor. Although he has not come in person yet, he is just a quasi-emperor under his command, carrying imperial soldiers. He beat Deluoji Unzone until he couldn't even lift his head. Fortunately, at the critical moment, the two great saints of Xiantian sword sect arrived with imperial soldiers and blocked the other side. Later, Ziwei Holy Land came to help. Although they did not bring imperial soldiers, they also brought quasi-imperial soldiers. Coupled with the Deluo sword sect's own background, a total of 5 great saint-level figures mobilized one emperor's weapon, 2 quasi-emperor's weapons, and the mountain-protecting formation of Deluo sword sect, and barely blocked the opponent. But this situation may not last long. Because the quasi-emperor from another world did not come alone, there was a steady stream of reinforcements coming from behind. At the moment, Deluoji Unzone has been surrounded. If there is no rescue from other forces, it is estimated that the end of Deluo sword sect will not be too good. When countless people were paying attention to the great Luo sword sect's battle with another world, another change occurred in the direction of the 9 Nether Demon sect. The place where the 9 Nether Demon sect is located. The earth shattered, and a huge hand stretched out from the ground, lifting the land thousands of miles around where the mountain gate was located. Like a land mass in the sky, it flew towards the direction of Dawang City with a rumble. Finally, it landed in the Beiduan Mountains. This is the place where Ren Qingtu and Yang Qiu competed for opportunities. In the past, the Beiduan Mountains were a barren and remote area, and neither the Tianyan dynasty nor the Xian Holy Land included it within their sphere of influence. Obviously, this is used as a buffer zone. Although both sides don't care, third-party forces are not allowed to intervene. In particular, the 9 Nether Demon sect, a rising behemoth, what do they want to do when they come here at this moment? When the Juyu Demon sect fell in the Beiduan Mountains, the ancestors of both sides rushed to the 9 Nether Demon sect immediately. After Meng Qingzi carried the imperial soldiers, he held friendly, sincere, and close peace talks with both parties. The ancestors of both sides reluctantly pinched their noses and accepted, letting the 9 Nether Demon sect stay here temporarily. After the coming of the alien world has passed, return to the original sphere of influence. The deserted city. Tianji Tower. After Meng Qingzi finished arranging the sect's affairs, he hurried over. As soon as I arrived in front of Tianji Tower, then he met a person of the same level. This man was dressed in a dragon robe, with a graceful appearance and cold eyes. His dark golden eyes carried supreme majesty, and his eyes were so stern that countless people did not dare to look at him. He stood in front of the Tianji Tower, calm and proud, with a majestic head and a huge dragon head. When he saw Meng Qingzi's figure, he couldn't help but narrow his eyes. "Ao Xian," Meng Qingzi said in a deep voice. "Meng Qingzi, long time no see. I thought you were going to die after your battle with Ling Xiao. I never thought you could cause such trouble. Ao Xian said indifferently. The first fight between Meng Qingzi and an alien emperor was not a secret. After all, it shocked millions of miles around. In addition to the Great Luo Sword sect, other forces got the news. Now, the Great Luo Sword sect was taken over by the alien world. During the siege, many forces had already gone to support as soon as they got the news, such as the Lin Imperial clan and the Holy Land of Taishu. After all, this space passage was opened in the territory of the human race. They still understand the principle of lips dying and teeth cold. The Great Luo Sword sect is gone, and it is not certain whose turn will be next. As for the Demon clan and other ethnic groups, they currently choose to sit back and watch. When will the human race be unable to bear it anymore, and when will they appear as the savior again? Especially the True Dragon clan, at this time. They even have leisure time and come to Tianji Tower to buy some news. Hee hee. Meng Qingzi sneered and said, you and I are of the same generation, and you haven't passed away yet. How can I be one step ahead of you? I am different from you. Ao Xian shook his head slightly and said, although I have endured millions of years, I am still ranked 4th in the Crown Prince list. Where are you, fellow Daoist Meng Qingzi? This moment, he felt that his heart had received 10,000 critical blows. There are many talented people in this world, and there are many quasi-emperors. Among all the quasi-emperors, I am ranked 4th, which is really a tribute to the senior poster. Ao Xian said with a look of shame. Come to think of it, fellow Daoist Meng has lived for such a long time. If the senior poster ranks 90 more places, fellow Daoist Meng will definitely be on the list. Meng Qingzi. This is Versailles in its nakedness. In their early years, the two were both geniuses, and they often fought against each other, but there was never a winner. Later, Meng Qingzi defeated Ao Xian once with the help of his formation. So much so that it made him brood over it for millions of years. Now, although no big revenge was avenged, he finally felt proud thanks to the Crown Prince list. Since we came together, how about we go in together? Ao Xian invited. He was not afraid that Meng Qingzi would know the news that he wanted to buy. Even if he knew, Meng Qingzi would not be able to rob him at all, because the Juyu demon sect is now in no position to protect itself, and it will have a grudge against the Dragon clan. That is, naked. Seeking death. Good. Meng Qingzi glanced at Ao Xian sympathetically. He has personal experience with the price of news in Tianji Tower. He bought the previous news and suffered heavy bleeding at that time. Although the Dragon clan is rich. But this time, I'm afraid he will have to pay for it. It hurts my muscles and bones. Wait a minute. Let's see how he comes out with a sad face. With that said, the two of them stepped into the Tianji Tower together. After entering the Tianji building, the two of them saw Li Yun lying on the bench at the same time. A huge light curtain appeared in front of him, which was about 2 feet long and wide. Various brilliance flickered among them, countless magic weapons and spiritual treasures rose into the sky, and 2 imperial weapons were locked in a stalemate in mid-air. Vaguely. There were also loud shouts of killing. There were countless corpses floating on the ground, blood flowed into rivers, and the scene was extremely tragic. There were even 2 quasi-emperors fighting in the void. The two took a closer look. If not the quasi-emperor of the Ye family, who else could he be? Even the quasi-emperors of the Golden Crow clan hidden in the void next to them all appeared in the picture, but the former seemed to be unaware of it, hiding in the void. Waiting for opportunity. Such means. Meng Qingzi and Ao Xian looked at each other, shuddered together, and secretly thought, incredible. Even though they are so far apart, they can actually observe the dynamics of the battlefield in real time. This is something even the great emperor cannot do. Because the emperor's spiritual consciousness also has a limit distance, it is impossible to extend from Dawang city to the vicinity of Deluo sword sect. Then here comes the problem. What kind of person is the senior poster? Now, Li Yun had popcorn in one hand and Coke in the other, both bought from the System Mall. He ate with gusto, watched with concentration, and occasionally exclaimed something wonderful. In future generations, this kind of special effects would probably cost around 500 million instead of 50 cents. Gives people an immersive feeling. Especially the fight between the two quasi-emperors shattered the area for millions of miles, dividing the battlefield into countless pieces, and every battlefield was crowded with people. Countless people from other worlds and this world are mixed together. The beating was extremely brutal. Senior poster. Meng Qingzi called out cautiously. Li Yun raised his head and glanced at the two of them, then pointed to the chair next to him and said lightly, "Sit." After that, he waved his hand and glanced at the screen reluctantly. He had just seen the wonderful place, but unfortunately he was on business, and he still had to do business, and he could watch the show anytime. Looking back at the replay, it was the same. "Thank you, Senior." Ao Xian and Meng Qingzi each took their seats and said thank you at the same time. "I heard that you moved the Juyu demon sect to the Beiduan Mountains." Li Yun looked at Meng Qingzi and said casually. "The Beiduan mountain range is only 4 to 5 million miles away from Dawang city. For the younger generation, it may be considered a long distance, but for the older generation, it is just a step up. Things. Coming to Dawang city is as easy as visiting. Nothing can satisfy the seniors." Meng Qingzi's heart skipped a beat, and he thought to himself. Could it be that he made his own decisions and made his seniors dissatisfied? If his seniors asked him to move back, it would be over. It would be fine if he offended Ling Xiao, but now he has made an emperor from another world unhappy. He also provoked the two great emperors to settle the matter together. He has 100 lives, which is not enough to die. Rest assured. Li Yun said lightly, "I won't drive you away." Meng Qingzi's approach reminded him that Tianji Tower cannot be moved, but what about Dawang city? His current strength is not weak. If he captures Dawang city, can he run around the world? Immediately, he took a look and saw that his secret points were 1.96 million. If he wanted to become an emperor, he could do so at any time. After he became the emperor, could he also hold on to Dawang city and visit other worlds? This idea appeared. Even though Li Yundang wanted to experiment, after taking a look at the other two people in the Tianji building, he temporarily suppressed his thoughts. He asked, "You two came to Tianji Tower this time, but for another world." "Good." At this time, Ao Xian spoke. He pondered for a moment, took out a great saint-level weapon, placed it in front of Li Yun, and asked, "Senior, please tell me what is the strength of this newly emerged world? Is there only one great emperor? Now, in this newly emerged world, they don't even know the name. They know that there is a great emperor who has not yet crossed the border. But the strength revealed now has already overwhelmed most of the human race. If the human race cannot withstand it, the demon race will get there sooner or later. Now it is necessary to find out some basic information about the other world." Li Yun put away the great sage's weapon and slowly said, "The other world is called Zixuan realm, and its strength is not weak. It is much stronger than today's world." Ao Xian looked like he was listening attentively. He was waiting for the next words. After waiting for a long time, he said in surprise, "Senior, where are you down below?" "Gone." Li Yun glanced at Ao Xian and said angrily, "A great saint-level weapon can't even figure out the details of a powerful world. Is it possible that you want to figure out the details of a powerful world? It's already a big secret to tell the difference in strength between the two worlds. Because people in this world don't know which of the two worlds is stronger and which is weaker. When they know that the opponent is stronger than themselves, they don't know how much it will cost. The price may have to be the death of several great emperors. Only then can you understand how fierce they are. Of course. Maybe not, but there is always a price to pay. Well. Ao Xian's expression froze. He turned his head slightly and immediately met Meng Qingzi's half-smiling eyes, as if he had expected this scene. Snored. Ao Xian snorted coldly. I asked you to listen to the news in vain, and you still have this expression? Are you ashamed? Today, I should also show you what it means to be grand. There is nothing else in the true dragon clan. They are rich. They sit on the endless sea. For hundreds of millions of years, other races have experienced ups and downs, but only his true dragon clan has endured for a long time. In terms of wealth and foundation, the entire world can compare with the true dragon clan in terms of wealth. The power may not have been born yet. Aha! A ray of light lit up. On the table, a simple classic was placed, with 4 big characters on it striking the eye. Swanyan Emperor Sutra. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 235. Emperor Sutra. Meng Qingzi took a breath of air conditioning. He glanced at Ao Xian without leaving any trace, and he had long heard that the Dragon clan had a profound background. In the past, I didn't believe it. But today, I have to believe it if I don't believe it. He took out an emperor's scripture casually, and so on handwriting, there are few people in the world who have the strength to do it. The Swanyan Emperor Sutra is a legacy left by a certain emperor of the human race. For the Dragon clan, it is only of reference significance. They themselves have a complete inheritance. Is there any Swanyan Emperor Sutra is of little significance? It is perfect to use it for trading now. Swanyan Emperor Sutra. Meng Qingzi looked at the emperor's scripture with envy. If this emperor's scripture is given to them, the 9 nether demon section. I'm afraid it won't be long before the 9 nether demon sect can soar into the sky. Senior, you just said that the Zixuan world is much stronger than our current world. I wonder how many great emperors exist. What is their strength? Ao Xian asked softly. Li Yun glanced at Ao Xian and smacked his tongue slightly. This dragon clan is really rich. He just threw out an emperor's scripture without any sign of pain, and when he asked for the news, he didn't even avoiding the existence of Meng Qingzi. There is probably another thought in this. Li Yun took a look at Ao Xian's system panel and suddenly realized that Ao Xian is quite kind. He knows that the other world is difficult to deal with, and now he buys the news. It is just a disguised form. It's just to help the human race. After all, helping the human race is also helping the demon race. In the war between the two worlds, no one can survive alone. Now that the ancestors of the Golden Crow clan have passed away, although they are temporarily standing still, their intentions have been revealed. Absolutely, it is to help the human race. At this juncture, if the Golden Crow clan continues to add insult to injury, it will undoubtedly exterminate all races in this world. The news that Ao Xian bought today is also intended to be spread through Meng Qingzi's mouth, and all races will have a deep understanding of Zixuan. Once you understand the world, you will naturally gain confidence. The next battle may not be too difficult. In the face of big right and wrong, I understand it very well, but it's a pity. Li Yun glanced at the information about the Zixuan realm, spent 400,000 secret points to check it, and slowly said there are 4 great emperors on the bright side of the Zixuan realm. The person who has opened the space channel now is Emperor Moun. Among the 4 great emperors, there are 2 more who are also opening their own channels. One will come after March, and the other will come after a year. This is some basic information about the 4 great emperors of Zixuan realm. Take a look. Said. Li Yun threw out a jade slip and it fell into Ao Xian's hand. As for Meng Qingzi, there was none. Bai Piao can't go too far. The basic information about the four emperors is already very valuable. Ao Xian he took out a copy of the emperor's scripture. It was unreasonable both emotionally and rationally to give a copy to Meng Qingzi for free. If Ao Xian didn't mind, after reading it, he would naturally pass it on to Meng Qingzi. These four emperors, really extraordinary. Ao Xian read the contents of the jade slip. After a long time, he let out a sigh of relief and felt very heavy. He never expected that Emperor Mon, who came first, had only been emperor for 170,000 years, and among the four great emperors, the latest person to become an emperor. The earliest person to become an emperor has been emperor for 1.32 million years. If these four emperors join forces, the world they live in may not be able to stop them. The attitude of the senior Tianji poster is not clear yet. Relying on Ling Xiao alone, even if he is against the sky, how can he be the opponent of the four great emperors? They are all amazing and talented, and invincible among their peers. One-on-one, Ling Xiao may not be sure to win. Not to mention, 1 to 2 or even more. It takes hundreds of thousands of years for someone to become an emperor. As long as he doesn't live like a dog for such a long time, it shouldn't be too difficult to defeat or even kill Ling Xiao. If these four great emperors come over, this world may be in a dead end. Ao Xian said in a deep voice. Although, many of them believe that in the world they live in, there is no great emperor on the surface, but there must be some secretly. But if he has it, there is no one in the Zixuan realm. Just now, the senior said it himself. I said it. There are four great emperors in Zixuan realm on the surface, but they didn't say it secretly. Every sentence of the senior poster has a hidden mystery. If you don't pay attention, you may just ignore it. Next to him, Meng Qingzi looked at Ao Xian was extremely curious about the jade cocoon in his hand. This was news about the four great emperors. Everyone wanted to take a look at the content and experience how terrifying the four great emperors of the Zixuan realm were. He opened his mouth several times. In the end, he didn't have the shame to beg. If he opened his mouth, Meng Qingzi could be sure that he would be ridiculed mercilessly by Ao Xian. There was no way. Who made his Juyu demon sect too poor? Knowing the news just now, which already made him overjoyed. Senior, now that Emperor Mon, most of his forces have come over. Meng Qingzi pondered for a moment and then asked. The creatures coming from across the border have joined forces with half of the human race, and the fight is inextricable. The Emperor's soldiers have sent out 2 pieces, and they have destroyed millions of miles around. This weight the lineup makes people wonder whether Emperor Mon has emptied his old base. Except for himself who has not come, it is estimated that all his subordinates who can come have come. Li Yun raised his eyebrows. Well. Meng Qingzi had a bitter look on his face, and a great saint-level weapon appeared in his trembling hand. This was the trophy he gained after killing 300,000 cross-border creatures. It's not warm yet, it's about to be taken out in a blink of an eye. Seniors and juniors also want to ask this question. Ao Xian was faster. He directly threw out a bottle of great saint-level elixir and placed it on the table. Then he glanced at Meng Qingzi lightly, with a look of disdain in his eyes. Cough. Meng Qingzi coughed lightly. He quickly took back the weapon he was about to take. If someone is willing to bid first and he is foolishly paying for it, then he is out of his mind. If he keeps this weapon, he might be able to buy another one later. Opportunity. Not to mention becoming an emperor, just make yourself stronger and add some foundation. No. Li Yun shook his head slightly. Ah. After hearing these 2 words, Ao Xian and Meng Qingzi's expressions changed. Those who are coming now are just the vanguards under Mon's command. What you see now are people from other forces who want to come to this world to get a share of the pie. Li Yun said slowly. The real trump card of Emperor Mon has not been used yet. But other forces are different. How can they sit still when they hear that the space channel has been opened? A world represents endless opportunities. If this world has an emperor, has opened up a space channel, and does not prohibit other forces from participating, many forces will inevitably swarm in. Emperor Mon obviously regards these people as cannon fodder, and first kills some of the background of this world, and it is best to force out one or two the great emperor. In this way, the impact on himself was reduced to the minimum. This is also the lesson he learned from the experience of the previous great emperor of Zixuan realm. If that great emperor had not put his own power at the beginning, if we pull them all over, we probably won't lose so miserably in the end, leading to the annihilation of the entire army. Correct. Li Yun seemed to have thought of something. With a wave of his hand, a scene appeared in the Tianji Tower. Two figures stood in front of it, oppressing the void, and their eyes were full of indifference. Just now, two more quasi-emperors came to the Zixuan realm. They were not Mon subordinates, but they were ancestors of the forces behind them. And they also brought an imperial weapon. Since everyone in this world is united, he doesn't mind sending a message. Anyway, these two people have already arrived on the battlefield without any intention of hiding their identities. Many people have seen it, and it doesn't matter if he exposes their trump cards. What? As soon as they take action, the news that they brought the imperial soldiers cannot be concealed at all. In a short time, this news will no longer have any value. See this scene. Ao Xian and Meng Qingzi both felt cold in their hearts. The strength shown by Zixuanja at this time is too terrifying. Emperor Mon's elite troops have not yet been used, and they are about to cripple the human race just by relying on other forces. This time, there is no ancient Taishu emperor. Even if there is, it is estimated that an ancient Taishu emperor would not be able to help at all. There are 4 of them, but they only have 1. How can they fight? Counting the quasi-emperor who came before, there are now 3 quasi-emperors and 2 imperial weapons in Zixuan realm. At this time, Ao Xian and Meng Qingzi were shaken in their hearts. Do you want to go over there and join the war? When there is no great emperor on either side, the quasi-emperor and the emperor's soldiers are at their peak combat power. Before they could make up their minds, the scene in the picture changed, and a sun rose in the battlefield. Among them was a 3-legged divine bird, bathed in the divine fire, descending from the sky like a demon god. As soon as he appeared, the terrifying wave surged into the sky, and the whole field collapsed. It spread all of a sudden, and the sky collapsed. Just by unleashing his power, hundreds of thousands of miles around have been reduced to scorched earth. Fellow Daoist Jinwu took action. Looking at the scene in front of them, the two people's hearts became heavier and heavier. The Golden Crow's action means that the demon clan has also realized the seriousness of the matter. When the great emperor of the blood demon realm came across the border, he only brought 2 quasi-emperors. But in today's Zixuan realm, before the emperor showed up, 3 quasi-emperors appeared with 2 imperial weapons. Even though they didn't know the strength of Zixuan realm, they could see from the tip of the iceberg that the world is simply not comparable to the Blood Cat realm. If all races do not join forces, they will be pushed aside by others. In the picture, the scene changes drastically. The ancestors of the Golden Crow attack 1-on-2 with all their strength, and the brilliance rushes into the night, flooding the world. The roar was transmitted from the picture across the distance of billions of miles. Although the two were no longer near the battlefield, looking at the picture, they also understood the seriousness of the matter. Near the battlefield, the quasi-emperor of the Ye family and the quasi-emperor of the Lin family were dual a quasi-emperor of the Zixuan realm. The 3 of them fought for a long time. Although his side had the upper hand, it was obviously impossible to kill the opponent. It can't be delayed. Ao Xian gritted his teeth and stood up suddenly. He wanted to rush over to join the battle. As a big clan, the Dragon Clan rules the world and has countless sea clans under his command. If he just sits idly by and ignores it, maybe all the clans in the world will think that the Dragon Clan is timid and afraid of getting into trouble. Wait a moment. Meng Qingzi's eyes changed and he called out to Ao Xian. He thought quickly in his mind. Ao Xian stopped, looked unhappy, and said coldly, "Fellow Daoist Meng, are you afraid?" "No." Meng Qingzi shook his head, turned to look at Li Yun, and asked with expectation, "Senior's strength is unparalleled in ancient and modern times, and he must be the best among the emperors. I wonder, Senior, can you open a space passage to the purple mysterious realm? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 236. The Space Passage to the Purple Mystic Realm. Hearing this, Ao Xian's heart moved. He turned around and sat back in his seat. He also put a pair of expectant eyes on Li Yun. Space passage is naturally not difficult. Li Yun glanced at the two of them and said with a slight thought, "You two, want to cross the border?" "Well." Meng Qingzi laughed dryly and said sheepishly, "We still have to see how much the senior will charge. Only the great emperor can open a space channel. There is no doubt about the strength of the great emperor. But the point is, buying a piece of news is so expensive. No one can guarantee the price of this move. If the senior lion opens his mouth widely, opening his mouth is an imperial weapon. Think of this." Meng Qingzi glanced at Ao Xian without leaving any trace. "Forbidding, we can only look at the true Dragon Clan. They are so rich, they should be able to pay for an imperial weapon, right? 2 quasi-emperor level items." Li Yun held out 2 fingers. "Compared with selling information, to be honest. This kind of business that allows you to make a profit is a business that is sure to make a profit. Because there is no system as a middleman, the profit or loss will all fall on you." In his pocket. As for the 2 quasi-emperor level items, it's because Ao Xian's storage ring has been scanned by him. He doesn't have any complete imperial weapons or emperor scriptures on him. No matter how high the price is, Ao Xian will buy it himself. I can't afford it. It's almost impossible to expect Meng Qingzi to help him. This man's wealth is less than 1/10 of Ao Xian's. The gap is ridiculously large. 2 quasi-emperor items. Meng Qingzi looked bitter. It was not an imperial weapon, which made him sigh in relief, but at the same time, it also made him feel slightly suspicious. The quasi-emperor level thing was not a piece of cabbage on the roadside. Anyway, their Juyu demon sect can't afford the price. You can only look at Ao Xian. There is no benefit in opening a passage. After passing through, you don't know what you will encounter. If it is blocked by a great emperor, you may die just after passing through. Meng Qingzi couldn't guarantee at this moment whether Ao Xian was willing to do such a purely loss-making business. "Senior." Ao Xian pondered for a long time. He touched his storage ring and felt a little weird. His belongings seemed to have been seen through by his seniors. The price was just within his acceptance range. It was a bit expensive, but not too outrageous. Ao Xian lowered his voice a lot and asked, "Junior would like to ask, can Senior control the location of the opening of this space channel? There's something tricky about crossing borders. Almost every quasi-emperor understands it. Opening a space passage depends entirely on one's appearance. In a strange world, no one knows whether a Jedi will appear on the other end of one's space passage. A space channel that cannot confirm the location of the other end can be said to be worthless. But if you control the other end position at will, it will be different." "Of course you can," Li Yun said with a smile. "He has a system." In all the worlds, no world is unfamiliar to him. He can open a space channel anywhere he wants. It would be great. Aotian clapped his hands and laughed. He first took out a quasi-emperor level technique in his hand, and then a quasi-emperor level secret technique. He thought for a moment and said, "Please also ask seniors to open a space channel next to an opportunity to become an emperor." Hearing these words, Menkingzi's heart skipped a beat. Aotian wanted to become emperor in the past. He just wanted to make trouble in the past and relieve the pressure in his world. But Aotian's thoughts were actually more ruthless than his own. If he became an emperor in another world, those emperor Mon and so on, wouldn't their noses be crooked with anger? Easy to say. Li Yun put away the quasi-emperor's belongings and asked in his mind system, check the chances of becoming emperor by agreeing with Aotian in the Zixuan realm. Ding. In the Zixuan realm, I agree with Aotian's chance of becoming emperor, and the inquiry was successful. Destiny Immortal Valley, 8.7 million TNG points are needed to find out the specific information of the opportunity. Fallen Immortal Ancient Palace, 8 million TNG points are required to find out the specific information of the opportunity. Immortal Burial Land, 8 million secret points are required to find out the specific information of the opportunity. Tomb of the Starfall Emperor, 6.1 million TNG points are required to find out the specific information of the opportunity. The Ancestral Land of the Bilingiao clan, 2.79 million secret points are needed to find out the specific information. 5. Li Yun counted it again. As expected of Zixuan world, the chances of becoming an emperor are a little more than in this world. Of course. It's not that there are only so many opportunities to become an emperor, but that there are only so many suitable for Aotian. Everyone's path to becoming an emperor everyone is different, and opportunities vary from person to person. Ancient Palace of Fallen Immortals, Immortal Burial Ground, Immortal Burial Battlefield. 1 fell to immortality, and 2 buried immortals. He muttered these 3 names, and he always felt that there was some connection between them, but he didn't have time to think too much at the moment, so he suppressed his thoughts for the time being. The system raised my strength to the peak of the great emperor, and by the way, all those miscellaneous visions were erased. Li Yun said in his heart. At this time, if he improves his strength, if there are many strange phenomena, even fools Aotian and Menkingzi will be able to tell that something is wrong. How can a person who has been the emperor for a long time have the strange phenomenon of just becoming an emperor? The best way is to make them unable to feel it. This is foolproof. Ding, after consuming 2.79 million TNG points, the host's strength is raised to the peak of the great emperor. Boom. In Li Yun's body, it was as if the Tianhe River burst its banks. His aura was rising steadily, breaking through the realm. In just a moment, he went from the cultivation level of a saint to the peak of the emperor almost instantly. He was only 1 step away from the next realm. Practice with a little effort. Suddenly, it seems that there is a possibility of a breakthrough. Why is it so expensive? Li Yun frowned. Shouldn't more than 1 million TNG points be enough? If he hadn't just earned 2 quasi-emperor weapons and a Swanyan emperor's scripture, the TNG points on his body might not be enough. So many after smashing the TNG points, I only have 870,000 TNG points left in my body. Although I am not a pauper, I am not far away. At least it is 1 step closer, which may not be too big. The further back, the higher the cost. This he still knows one thing. The host requirement is the peak of the great emperor, so the price is a bit more expensive. Li Yun. The price of becoming an emperor in love is different from that of the peak emperor. The system is also stuck. We have been together for such a long time, why should we be so fussy? Just about 1 million secret points. Well. Li Yun shook his head and sighed, waving his hand to open the world map of the Zixuan realm. This thing was given by the system for free. It only marked the locations of the major forces. It was of little use to him. But it was of great use to others. But no one asked at the moment, and he didn't know how to give it away for free. After searching for a long time, he nodded after seeing the ancestral land of the Bilingiao clan. This was almost the only opportunity to become an emperor at a reasonable price. But even so, it's almost 3 million TNG points. Space Channel. Li Yun murmured. For this thing, it would take other great emperors a long time to open the passage between the two realms, but he himself did not know how long it would take. But thinking about it, relying on the emperor's peak strength, it shouldn't take too long. System, how long will it take for me to open a space channel myself? Li Yun asked in his heart. Ding, 57 years and 3 months. Li Yun. So long? It would take such a long time for him to reach the peak of his strength. God knows how much effort Emperor Mon spent on this space passage. 50 years from now, no one knows what will happen between the two worlds. I can afford to wait, but Aoxian and Menkingzi probably can't. It seems that we still have to rely on the system. Li Yun pouted. He stretched out one hand and grabbed it in the air. With a crash, the void was ripped away like a rag with great force. A huge hole was torn open, leading to an unknown place. The world. On the other side is a stretch of palaces, majestic and terrifying, with terrifying auras hidden. Occasionally, dragons rise into the sky, and their energy and blood reach the sky. All right. After tearing a crack, Li Yun clapped his hands and whispered 2 words. So fast. Aoxian and Menkingzi looked at each other. They thought that the master of TNG was very strong and should be able to open a space passage in a short time. But they didn't expect that he was so strong. With just a grab, without any aura being revealed, the space was destroyed. After scratching to pieces, a space crack appeared in front of the two of them. This was too scary. If the other emperors knew about it, would they die of shame? If the space channel could be established so easily, those emperors would probably have nothing to do. They will open one to see if there is a weaker world. And Ling Xiao and the others don't have to guard a space passage, and they can't bear to destroy it. The strength of the senior may be more than just the great emperor. Aoxian and Menkingzi looked at each other, and this idea came to their minds at the same time. If it were the emperor, it would be impossible to open a space channel so lightly. Senior, is this the place where you have the opportunity to become an emperor? Aoxian took 2 steps forward and took a closer look. With his eyesight, he could only see that this was a huge force, and it was very scary. The external formation, if he read it correctly, should be emperor level. Formation. In other words, this ethnic group had a great emperor before. Li Yun nodded casually. Please also ask your seniors for advice on how to break the formation. Aoxian turned his hand and presented a storage ring. It is easy to violate the taboo of buying the formation breaking methods of other forces in this world, but those from other worlds are obviously not included in this. They have not experienced it yet. The horror of the quasi-emperor parachuting into the sect. This time, it's time for them to experience it too. Correct. Aoxian thought for a moment, then took out 3 bottles of Great Saint-level elixir, placed them in front of Li Yun, and said respectfully, Senior, please estimate whether there is a quasi-emperor in this force. Even if a clan that once gave birth to the great emperor has declined, its heritage cannot be underestimated. If you sneak in and happen to meet someone of the same level, and they chase you with the emperor's weapons, it will be over. There is no difference in the snare. Rest assured. Li Yun waved his hand. He picked up the storage ring and glanced at it. Lying in the middle was a broken imperial weapon. It was so broken that it had almost no value except for being remade. But its material was extraordinary and it was made of divine gold. but it is worth some secret points. Next to the Emperor's weapons, there are 3 Emperor's scriptures. I don't know how the Dragon clan collected them. These 3 are quite different from the Swanyan Emperor's scripture at the beginning. Most of them are incomplete. Some are missing the middle realm, and some are missing the beginning and the end. However, 3 incomplete Emperor scriptures, plus a broken imperial weapon, can be regarded as the value of a complete imperial weapon. Li Yun put away the storage ring. Slightly he gave Aotian a deep look. With a bunch of incomplete things, it was not easy to get another opportunity. He opened the system panel in his mind and asked. System, first check the Bilinjiao clan to see if there is a quasi-emperor. Ding. Search successful. The quasi-emperor ancestor of the Bilinjiao clan came to Tianyuan realm with the imperial soldiers and is currently fighting against the Jinwu ancestor. Li Yun's eyes lit up. He actually didn't deduct the secret points? It seems. In this world, it is a secret news. In the Zixuan realm, it is not a secret at all. A quasi-emperor ancestor led the imperial soldiers to another realm. Not to say that everyone knows it, but some high-level forces in the Zixuan world should know it well. In the future, it seems that I can also make a lot of money based on this information difference. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 237. The Bilinjiao clan does have quasi-emperors, and even imperial soldiers, but you have just seen their quasi-emperors, who are fighting against the quasi-emperors of the Golden Crow clan. Li Yunkin said. Oh. Aotian's eyes lit up. Is there such a good thing? A quasi-emperor came here across the border and joined the battle. He took advantage of it. No matter how strong the ancestor of the Bilinjiao clan was, he would immediately. There's no way he can come back. Senior, the Bilinjiao clan's method of breaking the formation. Aotian asked expectantly. Li Yun paused for a moment and then said, the value of a few incomplete imperial scriptures is still a bit low. He said. His eyes drifted to the storage ring in Aotian's hand. Others don't know, but he knows that inside Aotian's ring, there is a quasi-emperor level technique and a quasi-emperor weapon. If he doesn't take it out, I was afraid that I would be heartbroken for a long time. Aotian's face turned dark. This time, before he went out, he was rich. He brought out all the imperial scriptures, including several incomplete imperial scriptures. In his opinion, such a rich handwriting. It's more than enough to buy a chance to become an emperor and to find out news about other worlds. How come it looks like now? Seems a little worse. Beside. Meng Qingzi smiled narrowly. Based on the price Aotian paid for the opportunity to become an emperor this time, he had an idea. It seemed that the minimum he needed was an emperor-level item. He has the imperial weapons, but he is reluctant to take them out now. If he would also cross the border, make a fortune, and destroy a few more sections, maybe the steel would be enough. Even the imperial soldiers of Shaking Light Holy Land can be saved. A little worse. Aotian's face showed a look of pain for the first time. He took a deep breath and saw that Emperor Chen was approaching. This opportunity was not to be missed. He turned around and glanced at the space passage, as if the opportunity to become emperor was waving to him. Aha! 2 rays of light flashed. He took out the last 2 quasi-emperor level items. Senior, is this enough? About there. Li Yun nodded and said in his heart system, check the chance of becoming an emperor in the Bilinjiao ancestral land, and by the way, look up a way to break the formation in the Bilinjiao ancestral land. Ding. 750000 TNG points were deducted and the query was successful. 750,000. Li Yun raised his eyebrows. A jade slip appeared in his hand and he glanced at its contents. No wonder it is so expensive. This opportunity for love is the place where the ancestor of Bilinjiao was seated. There is also a formation nearby. Before this ancient emperor passed away, he poured his own essence and blood into this emperor-level elixir. Then, it was sealed. It was sealed in the tomb and became the heritage of the Bilinjiao clan. In the future, if there is a clan member who is at the peak of the quasi-emperor, he may be able to use this emperor-level elixir to take a crucial step. It is a pity that his descendants are not very live up to expectations. For many years, there has not been a quasi-emperor. Finally got one, but it seems that he is not of use. In the final analysis, his background is a bit poor. If he swallows this emperor-level elixir, he will not be able to become an emperor at all. Fortunately, the Bilinjiao is a distant relative of the dragon clan. This emperor-level elixir is the super elixir has some effect on Aotian. If it were someone else, or another demon clan, it is estimated that in their opportunity to become emperor, there is no option for the Bilinjiao ancestral land. This is your chance. The jade slip flew out of Li Yun's hand and fell into Ao Xian's hand. Thank you, senior. Ao Xian put away the jade slip and said gratefully. Then he glanced at Meng Qingzi, with a hint of pride flashing in his eyes, and whispered, fellow Daoist Meng, it seems that I want to take the first step. Said. He arched his hands to Li Yun again, then turned around and stepped into the space crack. Meng Qingzi's face turned dark. In today's world, almost all of his contemporaries are dead, leaving almost only Ao Xian, a dragon, and a few old monsters who don't know whether they are alive or not. If Ao Xian becomes emperor, then he is still a quasi-emperor. Wouldn't it be embarrassing to meet him in the future? At present, this world is being invaded by a powerful enemy, and Ao Xian will not do anything to him. But if there is no threat, the result will be different. In the final analysis, the relationship between him and Ao Xian is not that good. There was even some resentment in it in the early years. Did I provoke 3 great emperors? Meng Qingzi looked sad, turned around and cupped his hands and said, Senior, in this Zixuan world, is there a chance for the younger generation to become emperor? Of course there is. Li Yun was too lazy to inquire and responded casually. He knew the opportunity to agree with Meng Qingzi without looking at it. There must be one, but the key is that Meng Qingzi can't afford it at all. He only has a few great saint-level items on his body. Even looking at it, even if you have the chance to become emperor at a glance, you can't do it. If you take out the imperial weapons from the Shaking Light Holy Land and add 2 quasi-emperor level items, I can give you some pointers. Li Yun said with a chuckle. Well. Meng Qingzi's heart moved for a moment, then he suppressed it. After pondering for a moment, he took out all the things on his body, including 1 great saint level item and 9 saint king level items. There are also many saints and even the weapons and magic weapons of the Holy Lord. Senior, look at these things. Can you buy the formation breaking methods of several sects in Zixuan realm? After Meng Qingzi finished speaking, he added another sentence, saying Junior means that there has never been a sect or family of a great emperor in history. Can't buy any. Li Yun glanced at it and said. But I can show you a clear path. Li Yun stretched out his palm, and a brilliance flashed across his palm, and a scroll appeared. He handed it to Meng Qingzisheng and said, this is a small part of the Zixuan realm map. I have marked several sects and there the strength is not much different from the previous heavenly demon palace. They are all inherited for millions of years and have a profound foundation. That's all I've said. I think you should know how to do it. Junior understands. As Meng Qingzi listened to Li Yun's words, the light in his eyes became brighter and brighter. By the end, he was overjoyed. The senior was giving himself a chance. He must have seen that the Zixuan realm was so rampant, so he allowed himself to pass by. They set a fire behind them. If this fire ignites, on the one hand, it will help relieve the pressure in this world. On the other hand, he can also make a little gain. Before, he was still thinking about finding any sect and doing it in one fell swoop. Destroy them. Although you will make a lot of money in this way, it is estimated that buying an opportunity to become an emperor is not enough. But, with the guidance of my seniors, I have a clear understanding of the division of forces in the purple mystic realm, and I no longer have to run around like a headless fly. Just in case. If he ran away from the great emperor's lair, wouldn't that mean he died unjustly? This map is like a guiding light. If used properly, each sect can be defeated one by one, let alone one or two. Give yourself time and destroy 7 or 8, it will be easy. In his own world, he would not dare to be so crazy because the 9 nether demon sect would be besieged, but it would be embarrassing to deal with other worlds. He doesn't have any psychological pressure. After all, he is also a human being. Now, it is reasonable for the human race to take revenge after being beaten down. Correct? Li Yun seemed to have thought of something, and finally added, you are different from others. The chance of becoming emperor may be a little more expensive, so the estimate in your mind just now is not accurate. Ah! I just got the map, and before I could calm down, I was poured cold water on my head. Senior, are you trying to treat me differently? This junior is sincere to you. Instead of treating them differently, you should understand that your potential has been exhausted, and it is much more difficult for many people to become an emperor. Li Yun said softly. That Aotian was of the same era as me. Meng Qingzi cried with a sad face. The opportunity he took was the opportunity left by the ancient emperor of the Bilinjiao clan. Although they were from different clans, they were from the same origin. They just happened to meet him. Li Yun explained. Now let me remind you, I just don't want Meng Qingzi to make another trip. After all, I have worked hard for myself. Well, now that Meng Qingzi has decided to grab resources, he should grab more and make a lot of money by the way. After all, in this world, there are only a few useful tools like the Juyu demon section. Others have too many worries, and the Juyu demon sect smells the aura of benefit. That can abandon everything. This. Meng Qingzi's face fell. He clenched the map in his hand and glanced at the space passage next to him, with a ruthless look flashing in his eyes. This time. No wonder I am. After living for millions of years, I don't have high requirements. I just want to become an emperor. Go ahead. Li Yun waved his hand. Junior, farewell. Meng Qingzi turned into a black mist and quickly rushed into the space channel. Among them, the boundary has not been completely crossed, and the murderous intention in his body is almost uncontrollable. This rushing look. Li Yun silently mourned for Zixuanja in his heart. Before. In this world, Meng Qingzi is planning to take action against the Great Luo Sword section. Now that he has no restraints, no one can guarantee how much trouble he can cause in the Zixuan realm. Although the power of a quasi-emperor is not as powerful as that of a great emperor, the effect it exerts is still very terrifying. Not to mention, Meng Qingzi also brought the imperial soldiers with him. The two of them were sent away. Li Yun stood in the Tianji Tower, and his huge spiritual consciousness swept out like a tide, covering a distance of nearly tens of millions of miles, and every scene was reflected in his mind. He looked at the space passage in Tianji Tower. I also looked at a few lists from the outside world. In the past. If the strength is not enough, just let it be. But now it seems that a row of lists is lined up in front of the Tianji Tower. From a distance, it looks like a tomb forest. It is very eye-catching, not to mention eye-catching. There is also a space passage in the building. After. Someone from the Zixuan realm is coming. Is it possible for him to appear directly in Tianji Tower? Then wouldn't he have no privacy at all? And as time passed, all the heavens and worlds were opened, and every space passage opened inside the TNG tower. Wouldn't it be a good TNG tower? Was he turned into briquettes by himself? Gotta change it? Li Yun touched his chin, stretched out his hand, and with a drag of space, a loud rumble came out. The entire desert city within a radius of thousands of miles suddenly shook. Amidst the rumble, a continent slowly floated up. What happened? What happened? Why do I feel like the ground beneath my feet is floating? You feel right, Dawang City is indeed rising, and the land within a radius of thousands of miles is rising together. Is this the senior poster taking action? The people in Dawang City quickly calmed down after experiencing the initial panic. This is the safest place in the world. Even if someone from another world comes, they probably won't dare to do anything offensive. At the moment. Apart from the senior poster taking action, they couldn't think of another possibility. Dawang City rises slowly. The TNG tower was still on the ground, and Li Yun breathed a sigh of relief. The TNG tower is not immovable. At least now, with the rise of Dawang City, there is no tendency to fall. I couldn't move before because I just didn't have enough strength. Maybe someone will go against TNG tower again in the future. It seems that I can really move the TNG tower to block the door. After arriving at an altitude of tens of thousands of meters, Li Yun spent 500,000 TNG points in the system to exchange formation methods from the body forging realm to the quasi-emperor level. It is better to teach a man to fish than to teach him to fish. A set of formation diagrams does not cost much, but it is obviously more affordable to learn the formations in a systematic way. After having countless formation knowledge in my mind, Li Yun raised his hand to type countless symbols and laid out a large formation, covering the surroundings of Dawang City. This piece of land was fixed in the void. At the same time, a huge spirit gathering formation was set up to absorb the spiritual energy within millions of miles. It is estimated that it will not be long before this place will be transformed into a fairy island. After doing all this, all the lists flew in all directions and settled in the void. Standing on this fairy island, you can easily see them from almost any corner. Subsequently, he then threw the space passage in the TNG tower below Dawang City. In the future, people who come out of this space channel can come to the vicinity of Dawang City immediately. But it won't appear in the deserted city. Thanks to this bug in the system, even the immovable space channels can be thrown out. Li Yun clicked his tongue. He glanced at the outside scene and continued to ask in his heart. System, is your signal strength strong enough? Can various lists be updated? Can. Hearing the system's reply, Li Yun breathed a sigh of relief. He was still worried just now that he had left each list too far and left the control of TNG Tower. It would be great fun if each list could no longer be updated. Now, with the system's affirmative reply, it seems that I don't have to worry anymore. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 238. Zixuan Realm. Ao Xian stepped out of the space passage. The moment he came out, he restrained all his aura, and then his spiritual consciousness swept out. After confirming that no one nearby saw him, he breathed a sigh of relief. He stood in front of the space passage, glanced at the Bilinjiao clan, and then looked at the space passage behind him. He hesitated for a moment. A formation disc appeared in his hand. Plan to seal the exit of the space passage. The matter of coming here by myself is a secret. If someone sees the space passage, as long as he is not a fool and makes a little guessing, he can figure out that someone has crossed over. When the time comes, he will wait in front of the space passage. Whether he can go back or not is hard to say. The formation plate in his hand lit up, and before the formation could be deployed, a black stream of light quickly rushed out with a whoosh sound, and its momentum continued unabated. Flying to the end of the sky. Ao Xian. What happened just now? Judging from the breath, it seems to be Menkingzi. Is he here too? Is it possible that the Juyu demon sect is so rich that it can even afford a chance to become emperor? This is impossible. Ao Xian was puzzled, shook his head, and ignored Menkingzi. He waved his hand and knocked out the formation disk, holding it in the void, and a ripple spread out. The void suddenly became distorted. The traces of the space passage just now disappeared immediately. This is an illusory formation. Its strength is not higher than that of a great sage. No one will know that there is a space passage hidden here unless you step into the formation. In this way, it should be foolproof. Ao Xian took one look at his masterpiece and nodded with satisfaction. He turned around and looked at the ancestral land of the Bilinjiao clan not far away. At this time, the other ancestor was still fighting in his own world. It's full of enthusiasm. But I am embarrassed. I just accept the things left by your ancestors. In my own world, the dragon belongs to the genus of dragon. Although the dragon is also a dragon, the dragon tribe never recognizes them. What good things are there? Don't they all have to be from the dragon clan? Does this little brother Jiaolong deserve the chance to become an emperor? Ah! Ao Xian sneered, and his body disappeared out of thin air. The next moment, he had arrived at the mountain protecting formation of the Jiaolong clan. The jade slip in his hand lit up. According to the records on the jade slip, he entered the Bilinjiao ancestral land without any danger. Within. During the whole process, no one noticed anything was wrong. The only quasi-emperor ancestor did not sit in the clan and took away the imperial soldiers. With the remaining great saints, it was impossible to find Ao Xian. Senior's methods are really unpredictable and he can calculate things in other worlds. Is it possible that in the eyes of Senior, there are no secrets in all the worlds? Ao Xian was filled with emotion. He held the jade slip and walked in the ancestral land of the Bilinjiao clan. It can be seen that this is a powerful clan with a very deep heritage and covers an area of thousands of miles. Occasionally, there is the sound of dragon roars. As the word spread, towering divine peaks towered between heaven and earth. The sacred mountains were majestic and airy, as if they had walked into a fairyland. Holy rocks flowed with divine springs, spiritual grass grew on the cliffs, and auspicious beasts lurked in the mountains. There was both fairy spirit and wonderful scenery, magnificent and colorful, just judging from the weather. It is no less than some ancient clans that have been inherited for countless years in the Tianyuan world. Such a powerful clan, little does it know that their trump cards have been turned upside down by their predecessors, even the color of the underwear. I guess it can't be hidden from the eyes of the seniors. If it weren't for the Tianji Tower, which is too far away from the sea, and if we come here a few more times, I'm afraid the Dragon Clan will unify the world, right? Ao Xian clicked his tongue. A flash of blue light came from his body, and he came to a tall divine peak. From a distance, this peak looked like a dragon, lying across the ground. It was majestic and had the power to swallow up the world. The dragon's head was slightly tilted. Raising its head, it looked up to the sky and roared. The extremely rich dragon power washed over the earth like a tide. Countless years have passed. Every plant and tree here is tainted with a bit of dragon energy. It is a treasure place. According to the records of the predecessors, this should be the Bilinjiao clan. The body of the great emperor in the past became immortal after his death and turned into a sacred mountain to dominate the clan. It's a good treasure. After I become emperor, I have to find a way to get rid of it. Ao Xian glanced at the sacred mountain, then looked at the jade slip in his hand, and murmured, the opportunity to become an emperor lies in this sacred mountain. If it weren't for the method of breaking the formation given by the senior, not to mention the quasi-emperor, even the great emperor would have to waste a lot of effort if he wanted to get it. After he memorized all the methods of breaking the formation recorded in the jade slips in his mind, he stepped up into the air step by step, came to the dragon's head, and submerged his body into it. Everything went smoothly without any obstacles. Within the body of the ancient emperor, dragon energy was swirling around. One by one, they turned into clouds and steamed up. The purple energy canopy covered the canopy. Among them was a 3-foot-tall azure elixir. It swayed in the wind and was green. The elixir looks like a dragon. The scales are so dense that if you don't look carefully, you would almost think that this is a newly born real dragon. Opportunity to become emperor. The moment he saw this elixir, Ao Xian's heart beat unsatisfactorily. He felt a call from the depths of his blood, as if this elixir was prepared for him. It fit him perfectly. As long as he swallows this emperor-level elixir, he can definitely become an emperor. The other side. The ancient Kangluan clan. This ethnic group is not very famous in the Zixuan world. Their ancestors have never been glorious, but they have not declined either. Every generation can produce one or two great saint-level figures. Not to mention extremely tyrannical, but he was able to protect himself in the Zixuan realm. Among the Kangluan tribe. Above a piece of auspicious clouds, there is a large hall, hidden in the clouds and mist. In front of the main hall, two figures stand side by side, looking into the void. I don't know what is happening now that the two ancestors have entered the Tianyuan world. The leader of the Kangluan clan said with worry in his tone. A cross-border battle is an opportunity, but it is also a catastrophe. If you win, you will naturally make a lot of money. The Kangluan clan can take advantage of the trend and rise. It is not impossible to give birth to one or two quasi-emperors. But if we lose the battle and are counterattacked by people from the Tianyuan world, it will be great fun. The Kangluan clan is currently tied to Emperor Moun's chariot. In the book, Emperor Moun was defeated, and the Kangluan clan could not escape the liquidation. It is said that all the clans in the Tianyuan world are warlike, butchers per capita, and do not have tens of thousands of lives on their hands. They are embarrassed to say hello to others when they go out. Face to face in such a cruel world, the Kangluan clan really doesn't have much confidence. Patriarch, don't worry, I just received news that Emperor Moun's first general has led millions of elites to conquer territory millions of miles around. The first one to bear the brunt was a force called the Luo Sword Section. Although it was not destroyed, its vitality was severely damaged and it was forced to retreat thousands of miles away. Along the way, countless other small and medium-sized forces were destroyed. In the Tianyuan world, the human race that took the lead in resisting our world has already suffered heavy casualties. After a while, the human race will no longer be able to hold on. Beside the Kangluan clan leader, an elder said with a smile, very calmly. The situation in the Tianyuan world is exactly as they understood it. In the face of the invasion from the outside world, only the human clan stood up, while other clans stood aside and watched. This but God sent good things. If all races unite to resist their Zixuan realm, they might lose some of their strength. But they just gave them a hand. In the eyes of the creatures in the Zixuan realm, this is simply unbelievable. Amidst the catastrophe, there are still living beings watching the show. Human race. Chief Kangluan heard these two words. A glimmer of light flashed in his eyes, and he said calmly, this ethnic group is indeed not weak. In the past, it also shined in the Zixuan world and almost dominated this world. It's a pity that all races joined forces and defeated them. After that, it was suppressed by all parties, and now it is almost reduced to the second rate. The elder of the Kangluan clan smiled narrowly. It is also possible for the third rate. Their inheritance has been destroyed. They do not have suitable techniques. They rely solely on their own creation and exploration. If they want to rise again, they may have to wait for hundreds of millions of years. Makes sense. Kangluan clan chief stroked his beard and smiled, and murmured, I never thought that just after the war with the Tianyuan realm, I would encounter a familiar ethnic group. It seems that the human race will be defeated at the hands of all the tribes in the Zixuan realm. What the patriarch said is true. Elder Kangluan echoed. The two looked at each other and smiled, both seeing the longing in each other's eyes. Tianyuan world. This world that is rumored to be powerful is actually easier to fight than they imagined. A great emperor has not yet become a real person. In the past, they crushed an entire ethnic group. What if 2, 3, or even 4 great emperors came together? Wouldn't the Tianyuan realm be able to bow to them? Thinking of this, the smiles on their faces turned into long smiles. The sound was loud and echoed in the void. Before their smiles could fade away, suddenly, the Kangluan clan leader's expression froze. He raised his head and looked to the outside world, with a strange meaning in his eyes, and murmured, "Human race." The elder of the Kangluan clan also stopped smiling and followed the clan leader's gaze. I don't know when. In the void outside, there was an old man. He was dressed in black, with a white beard floating around, and a look in his eyes. Unable to conceal his excitement, he kept looking at Kangluan's ancestral land. What are the humans doing here? The head of the Kangluan clan looked displeased and said in a cold voice, how can a third-rate ethnic group approach the ancestral land of the Kangluan clan? Third elder, go out and kill it. In the past, too many human beings have fallen. Now, killing one more is as easy as eating and drinking for them. Yes. The third elder of the Kangluan clan bowed his hands and showed a cruel smile. He strode towards the void and walked up. After taking 2 steps, before he could reach outside the formation, his steps suddenly stopped. The cruel smile at the corner of his mouth slowly faded, and finally turned into a look of horror. The old man's eyes were cold, and he stretched out one hand. In his palm, a simple cauldron was spinning, and finally rushed into the night. Get up! Boom! The big cauldron turned into a 3-foot square and hung above the old man's head. There were 99 blue dragons on it, lifelike, sucking in the essence of heaven and earth. The moment they appeared, they almost drained the spiritual energy of 1,000,000 miles around. On the blue dragon cauldron, thousands of black lights fell down, as dense as a rain curtain, wisps of threads. It was originally daytime. Suddenly, thousands of stars appeared. The Kanglong cauldron attracted the endless starlight and turned into an immortal cauldron, suppressing the void. Emperor, imperial soldiers. The third elder of the Kangluan clan looked horrified and screamed. At this moment, his voice became shrill and reverberated throughout the entire ancestral land. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 239. There are still imperial soldiers in the human race. The leader of the Kangluan clan moved his palm and pulled off a few beards, but he himself didn't notice it. How could a clan that has long since declined still have the emperor's weapons? During the war between the two worlds, the human race, with the emperor, being, what do you want to do when you come to the ancestral land of the Kangluan clan? He doesn't know that if he does this, the human race will fall into a place of eternal disaster? Quickly activate the mountain protection formation. The leader of the Kangluan clan shouted loudly. Normally, the mountain guarding formation is in a semi-open state and will not operate at full capacity because it consumes too much. A large amount of spiritual stones are consumed every day of operation. But it is different now. This human race came with the Emperor's soldiers, and he had no good intentions. If he didn't activate the big formation, it might be too late. Before he finished speaking, he was outside the ancestral land of the Kangluan clan. Meng Qingzi sneered and uttered 3 words. First. Boom. The Kanglong cauldron glowed, pulling all the stars to move together, and turned into a Kanglong that stretched across the sky and the earth, like a black nine-sky Milky Way, rumbling down from the void. It has not yet completely fallen. All the creatures in the Kangluan clan were immediately so soft that they fell to the ground. They wanted to resist, but in the face of the Emperor's power, the slightest thought of resistance in their hearts was ruthlessly smashed into pieces as soon as it arose. This human race is a quasi-emperor. Some people shouted. They showed a look of fear, and everyone was shocked in their hearts. The moment Menkingzi took action, his power was completely exposed and could no longer be hidden. In today's world, apart from the great emperor, the quasi-emperor is the pinnacle. A quasi-emperor came with imperial soldiers and wanted to smash their mountain-protecting formation. It can be said that it is easy. Our formation is only at the quasi-emperor level, but the opponent has imperial soldiers. What should we do? Send a message to Mon Imperial Palace quickly. Patriarch. The Kangluan ancestral land was in chaos. Chief Kangluan even took out a jade slip in his hand and was about to summon him. Boom! The Kanglong cauldron crashed down with a bright brilliance. In an instant, the sky collapsed. A tyrannical aura exploded like Wan Yang, and the waves swept the entire world. The terrifying aftermath swept in all directions, with a radius of millions inside. The earth sank. It was a doomsday scene. The ground was like Wan Yang, rolling up thousands of huge waves, hitting the sky, shattering the clouds in the sky, and countless mountains were instantly turned into powder. Kangluan ancestor inside the earth, countless creatures were shaken into a cloud of blood mist without even uttering a scream. Only a few Saint Kings survived with difficulty. But everyone was seriously injured, covered in blood, and their lives were almost gone. Reached the end. Click. A heart-wrenching voice sounded. The few remaining Saint Kings turned pale and looked up at the sky. In the past, the nearly indestructible quasi-emperor level formation cracked a gap after just one blow. Such a gap is almost fatal to them. Because if a quasi-emperor wants to come in, he does not need to completely smash the formation. As long as there is a crack, they can walk in calmly. Sure enough, the next moment, Menkingzi's footsteps stepping out, we instantly arrived at the ancestral land of the Kangluan clan. Who are you? The vitality of the human race in the Zixuan realm has been severely damaged and has not recovered for a long time. It is impossible for a quasi-emperor to be in charge, let alone to have imperial soldiers. A Saint King screamed miserably. He couldn't believe that his Kangluan clan was actually wiped out by a single blow from a clan that had long since declined. I never answer questions from a dead person. Go on the road with questions. Menkingzi's expression remained unchanged. He pointed out and countless rays of light flew out. Each one was as thick as a mountain, spraying black light all over the sky. The sky was riddled with holes. The few remaining Saint Kings, in a moment, the smoke disappeared. After these people were completely dead, a jade slip was photographed by Menkingzi. With his consciousness, he glanced inside and found a message that had not yet been sent out, and the person to whom it was sent was him. Not sure. But he sensed a familiar breath. The owner of this breath was the emperor he had seen from the other side of the space rift. If you still want to play tricks in front of me, you are too young. Menkingzi snorted coldly. Taking advantage of the opportunity to ask, he wanted to send a message to a great emperor. Didn't he want to die? After finally coming here, he had no intention of going back so easily. Bang! Menkingzi grasped the jade slip with 5 fingers, and then his spiritual consciousness swept across all directions, scanning all the treasure troves of the Kangluan clan. The background is quite rich. Menkingzi immediately beamed after seeing the resources in the treasure house. This is the first force. Let yourself make a lot of money. If next, 10 or 8 people are destroyed, let alone become an emperor, even become an immortal, it will just be a sprinkle of water. Buy information from Tianji Tower, and then come to Zixuan realm to seize the opportunity. After your strength increases, destroy several forces in Zixuan realm, and then go to Tianji Tower to buy information. This is simply a one-stop service. Perfect closed loop. It's a bit difficult whether or not you want to improve your strength. Thanks for the guidance, Senior. Meng Qingzi put all the resources of the Kangluan clan into the storage ring, then took out the map, looked at it carefully, and after finding a force, he put the map away. Next, the Black Tiger royal family. 2 hours later, the Black Tiger royal family was destroyed. Another 2 hours later, the Five-Toed Kinglan clan was destroyed. In just one day, Meng Qingzi traveled hundreds of millions of miles and destroyed 4 major forces in succession. This news completely detonated. The entire Zixuan realm was destroyed. If one was secretly destroyed, it could be hidden for a while. But in a short period of time, 4 were destroyed. This means that it cannot be hidden no matter what. People in the Zixuan realm are not fools. They had long sensed what happened to the Kangluan clan. Before they could feel the Kangluan clan's ancestral land and find out the situation, they suddenly discovered that this matter did not seem to be that simple. It seemed that there was a terrifying creature, carrying the Emperor's soldiers are looking for large forces everywhere to take action, and every time, they are killed with one strike. The target is very clear. They specifically select those forces whose ancestors have given birth to quasi-emperors, who do not have the protection of emperor-level formations, but have relatively deep foundations. Take action. How is this going? Are the creatures from the Tianyuan world coming? Impossible. The creatures from the Tianyuan realm came across the border. How could the 4 great emperors not get the news? Yes, the creatures in Tianyuan realm do not understand Zixuan realm. This terrifying existence attacks everywhere with clear goals. It is obvious that they are very familiar with Zixuan realm. I suspect that this is a certain ethnic group that wants to take advantage of the war between the 2 worlds to start a war in this world. Is it possible that there is a traitor in our Zixuan world? There is a quasi-emperor level being who has committed adultery. In the purple mysterious world. When countless people are talking about it, the major forces are beginning to feel insecure. A quasi-emperor is wandering around with his imperial soldiers. Many forces cannot afford to offend them. No one knows who he will choose to attack in the next second. Mon Imperial Palace. On the throne, a majestic figure sits upright, wearing a black imperial robe and a jade crown on his head. His eyes are open and closed, looking in all directions. He is majestic and majestic, exuding energy that makes the heavens tremble. This is like a supreme god who rules hundreds of millions of miles. No one can raise their head in front of him. In 10 days, we only occupied 8 million miles of territory. Tabo, you have let this emperor down. Great Emperor Mon whispered to himself. The voice echoed in the hall, chilling people's hearts. His cold eyes penetrated through eternity, passed through the passage between 2 realms, and landed on the battlefield of Tianyuan realm, like the master of heaven and earth, indifferent looking at the situation on the battlefield. The ground was littered with corpses and rivers of blood. It was a scene of purgatory on earth. Several quasi-emperors fought to the point where they almost ran out of oil and lamps. It was very tragic. This picture was reflected in the eyes of Emperor Mon. It did not cause any waves in his heart. It was like a piece of eternal ice, extremely cold. Great Emperor. At this time, outside the palace, a guard wearing armor came along the steps, trembling with fear. As soon as he arrived outside the palace, he knelt down on the ground and kowtowed to the palace. The Great Emperor, there is a quasi-emperor in the Zixuan realm, leading the imperial soldiers, and they are attacking everywhere. There are 3 forces belonging to the Great Emperor. Quilt. Explain. Emperor Mon spoke and spat out a bite indifferently. He was destroyed by that quasi-emperor. The guard swallowed his saliva and said with a pale face, "Oh." Emperor Mon's expression remained unchanged, as if the matter had nothing to do with him. He stood up slowly, like a god of war awakening, emitting immeasurable light and suppressing eternity. The power of the emperor surged out. The stars in the sky were all at this moment trembling, almost destroyed. The war between the two realms has just begun. Is there anyone in the Zixuan realm who can't sit still? Emperor Mon said to himself. Emperor Qi, after the quasi-emperor destroyed the four forces, looking at his route, it seemed that he was heading to the territory of the Emperor of Thailand. The four of them spoke again. Emperor of Thailand. Emperor Mon's expression did not change. This is a god emperor who became emperor. After he became the emperor, he did not use the title of emperor, but continued to use the word Tai Huang. Although he was not a certain emperor, the word Tai Huang still famous in the Zixuan world. Now that the unknown quasi-emperor ran into the territory of Emperor Tai, countless people thought that he was certain to die. As a dynasty ruler, Emperor Tai had a certain desire to rule. In terms of level, it even surpasses Emperor Mon. He has absolutely zero tolerance for people who are against him. It's just an ant, you can crush it to death easily. Emperor Mon was very conceited. He opened his lips lightly and spit out a beam of fairy light. The light fell to the ground and turned into a human figure, which was 79 times similar to him. Go ahead. Kill him. Emperor Mon said indifferently. The figure, with an expressionless face, took one step forward, and his god-level power burst out, just like the emperor was on a patrol. Tens of thousands of stars were shaken by it, causing countless creatures to turn their heads to look at Mon's palace. Unknown people who knew the truth almost thought that Emperor Mon himself appeared in this world. After the figure disappeared, Emperor Mon turned around and looked at the space passage again. The battle between the two realms is now in full swing. It is impossible for him to leave at this critical moment. It's not a big deal if you walk away, but if a great emperor jumps out of the Tianyuan world at this time, the matter will be big. With one slap, all the creatures that cross the boundary can be destroyed. If you follow your own space channel to kill them. At that time, wasn't it true that I was stealing the chicken but losing the rice? I spent time and effort to open up a space passage, but ended up making a wedding dress for others. The word Mon will become a laughing stock in the mouths of billions of creatures in both worlds. Presumably, the news from the Tianyuan world should be almost collected. Emperor Mon murmured. He had many back UPS. While sending people to fight, he also sent people to inquire about information. What he wanted was not information that everyone knew on the surface, but some deep secrets. For example, among the powerful ethnic groups in the Tianyuan world, is there any emperor alive? Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 240. Zixuan Realm. An endless starry sky. One majestic heavenly palace stands side by side, looking ancient, vicissitudes of life, and majestic. Look from afar. Just like the ancient heaven, it suppresses all realms and exudes majestic momentum. The palaces are scattered at random, with carved railings and white marble stairs, simple and heavy. The streets are wide, and there is a chaotic mist lingering between the palaces. There is a palace in the center. It is towering and covered with clouds and fog. It seems simple, but there is a vague aura that suppresses eternity. The plainness contains magnificence, exuding a majestic atmosphere. In the palace, a figure wearing a wild dragon robe knelt on the ground, opening and closing the corners of his mouth as if telling something. The deepest part of the palace. The fog of chaos surges. There seemed to be a person sitting there, but it also seemed like there was nothing there. It was blurry and the void was distorted. There was only an aura of supreme, great, powerful and supreme that was overwhelming, covering every corner of the hall, like a supreme God looking down on all living beings. The oppressed figure below looked pale and wanted to suffocate. The figure below, after finishing speaking, his head hit the ground, his face turned pale, and he was sweating profusely, falling to the ground, showing his inner panic. Prince. After a long time. If there is no time. It seems that such a sentence is echoing, as if it comes from a distant era, and it has reached this time and space. As you just said, a quasi-emperor broke into my territory. Yes. The figure in the wild dragon robe lowered his head by 3 points again, almost squeezing himself into the ground. Facing such a terrifying father, he didn't know whether he should cry or laugh. His father was too strong. He is so strong that he wants to conquer the Zixuan realm. Then he will conquer the Tianyuan realm. He wants to bring both worlds under his control. Such ambitions are rare in ancient times. I understand. Just 4 words. But like the sound of heaven, the entire palace began to vibrate immortally. Ancient symbols flashed back and forth, blooming like stars in the sky. Buzz. A soft cry came out. In the chaotic mist. A white jade palm stretched out, and with a flick of the finger, a drop of essence and blood containing the supreme rules burst out of the air. This drop of essence and blood changed rapidly in the void. And finally turned into a young man, wearing a golden robe, a purple gold crown on his head, his eyebrows flying sideways into his temples. In a pair of indifferent eyes, the terrifying scene of the world's creation and death was flowing. Although he did not say a word, he moved his hands and feet. Everything contained supreme power, as if a heavenly emperor had arrived, eclipsing everything in the world. He walked towards the outside world step by step, and when he came outside the temple, the sky cracked, and he stepped into it, and his figure disappeared instantly. At the same time, amidst the ruins, Menkingzi stood in the void with a smile on his face. Looking at the 7 storage rings on his hand, he seemed to be a million years younger and full of motivation. The 7 storage rings represent 7 forces with profound foundations. These forces have been completely destroyed by him. All became resources in his hands. I have obtained 10 quasi-emperor weapons, 1 broken emperor weapon, and several quasi-emperor level exercises. These things should be more than enough for the opportunity to become an emperor, right? Menkingzi was thinking in his mind. He came to the outside world and looked up. In the distance was a vast starry sky, boundless, with countless stars hanging in the sky. There were many stars, all exuding majestic life essence. The place where we are is actually a huge continent floating in the starry sky. This Zixuan realm is really vast. Menkingzi sighed in his heart. There is a huge difference between Zixuan realm and the world he lives in. Tianyuan realm is a complete land mass, while this world seems to be composed of countless stars, with occasional continents floating in the void. It is felt that many creatures live on some stars. This scene can be said to be extremely rare in the Tianyuan world. Only some ancient forces, in order to show their differences, will spend a lot of money to transform a star. Live on it. If you kill one of them, I will go back. Menkingzi raised his head, looked at an earthy brown star, and said secretly in his heart, this is definitely the last one. If you don't leave after destroying this one, I'm afraid the emperor of this world will be alarmed. The last one. As if to cheer himself up, Menkingzi took steps in the void and flew over quickly. Halfway through, the Kanglong cauldron roared out in his hand, evolving into a terrifying scene that was unprecedented in the world. It was majestic and overwhelming, and he crashed forward. Boom! With a loud noise, the world exploded. This was a big collapse. The entire void seemed to be disintegrating. Countless stars exploded in the sky, sweeping across the entire star field. Menkingzi frowned. Something seemed wrong. There was a trace of uneasiness in his heart for no reason. How come that star is unscathed? No one knows better than him how powerful the blow he just struck was. It is only reasonable for the Emperor's soldiers to fall and smash the star. It is impossible to be blocked by the opponent. Menkingzi's eyes twitched, and his heart suddenly he twitched, as if he was being stared at by a superior god, and his whole body became hairy. You are not a creature of this world. A cold voice sounded between heaven and earth, making people's hair stand on end. I don't know when. Under the Kanglong cauldron, a young figure stood quietly. When there was no time to escape, he took action to block the blow. He held the Kanglong cauldron in one hand. One hand is behind his back. His hair is disheveled, his skin is as crystal clear as jade, and his eyes are as bright and deep as the stars. This is an extremely young man, wearing a golden robe, with a fairy light all over his body, and billions of auspicious lights falling in the void, shining an eternal brilliance. The power of the Emperor spreads like a tide. It is unparalleled. Its power is arrogant in all directions, reaching up to the 9 heavens, down to the 9 netherworlds, covering the sky and the earth, as if it wants to cross the 3,000s of worlds, making hundreds of millions of creatures tremble with fear. Emperor. Menkingzi's face changed drastically, and his heart began to beat. Before he could leave, he suddenly noticed something was wrong. The aura of this great emperor seemed a bit unreal. It was like the moon in the flowers and water in the mirror, giving people an unreal feeling. If he hadn't been a quasi-emperor, he would never have been able to detect it. Isn't this the deity coming? Menkingzi breathed a sigh of relief. He glanced in all directions and began to plan his escape route. Since he has been targeted by the emperor, if he doesn't run now, he might be a real emperor later. He just raised his steps. Haven't left yet. Another cold voice came. Creatures from the Tianyuan world. This emperor has seen you. A man in black stepped forward, his voice majestic and domineering, revealing an aura that dominates all things. These 2 great emperors look down upon me too much. A trace of cold sweat broke out on Menkingzi's forehead. There was a great emperor in front of and behind him. This was a treatment that ordinary great emperors did not have, but he enjoyed it in advance. Should have known so. After destroying the force just now, he left directly. Pity. It's too late to regret now. Tianyuan world. The golden-robed man's eyes were indifferent, without any emotion. The aura of the god emperor was permeating his body. The starry sky was completely shattered. All things were extinguished and all living beings were trembling. This was an unimaginable pressure. Entering my territory and slaughtering my people, you deserve death. Wisps of murderous aura that has almost solidified into substance permeate the air, and the terror is boundless. It spreads towards Menkingzi and can destroy anyone's soul. Boom. The man in gold robe took the lead. With a finger, the starry sky trembled, the void collapsed, and the terrifying brilliance rushed out, forcibly opening up a chaotic passage between heaven and earth. Not good. Menkingzi's heart trembled. At this time, he didn't care about preserving his strength. He was more concerned about escaping. Anyway, he had already earned what he should have earned. His blood and essence seemed to be burning, and his aura was raised to the extreme, turning into a rainbow light and heading towards. He fled from the direction he came from. Before leaving, he blocked the imperial soldiers in his hands behind him. Boom. There was a loud noise, and the Kanglong cauldron trembled. The terrifying force of the recoil hit. Menkingzi opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood as if he had been hit hard. His face turned pale as paper. He used the force of the recoil to bypass it in the void. The man in black left quickly. The strange thing was that the man in black was a clone of Emperor Mon, and the two had long had a rift. He didn't actually stop him. If he did, Meng Qingzi thought to himself, even if he had the emperor, it is estimated that it will be difficult for soldiers to escape. Even if they escape, I am afraid that the Kanglong cauldron may not be able to save it. He will not understand for a while. He can only think that this is the arrogance of the emperor. These two clones of the emperor carry the emperor's will and disdain, the two of them besieging a quasi-emperor. 3 terrifying breaths. One ran away wildly, and the two followed closely. Crossed the void for hundreds of millions of miles. Countless people in the Zixuan realm saw this strange scene and clicked their tongues. Is this the quasi-emperor who destroyed forces everywhere and was caught? Having provoked 2 great emperors to take action in succession, I guess this quasi-emperor would be proud even if he fell. Other times. But without that quasi-emperor, he could still escape from the hands of the great emperor. Half a day later. Meng Qingzi looked at the void ahead, his eyes filled with dazzling brilliance. The space passage was already close in front of him, although Ao Xian had left a backup plan. But obviously, it cannot be hidden from his divine consciousness as a quasi-emperor. But just before arriving at the space passage, Meng Qingzi seemed to have figured out something, and his face suddenly turned pale. This moment, he suddenly understood why he could escape calmly from the hands of the 2 great emperors. The purpose of these 2 people was not me from the beginning, but the space passage through which I came. Aha! Aha! 2 soft sounds came. In front of Meng Qing, 2 more stalwart figures appeared. Emperor Mon struck out with one hand, and the backhand left by Ao Xian suddenly collapsed. A deep space passage was reflected in 2 people's eyes. Sure enough. Emperor Mon said in a cold voice. He turned around, looked at Meng Qingzi and said coldly, "Your value has been exhausted, go on your way." He raised his palm, and a symbol in his palm glowed, and a terrifying aura flowed out, sealing the void, and wanted to launch a decisive attack. He didn't have time to take action yet. Boom! A golden calamity thunder fell from the sky. Wind and clouds gathered all over the sky. Thick calamity clouds covered hundreds of thousands of miles, and the rumbling thunder was deafening. Countless thunder dragons swooped down and headed straight for the Bilinjiaozu not far away. The land. Because the Bilinjiao ancestral land was too close to here, the 3 of them were also enveloped in it.